Caught my wife cheating on me, and I know exactly when it started. I caught my wife with another person, let's call him AP, in our bed, and I kicked him out of my house. Oh boy, this is long. Me and my soon-to-be ex-wife have been married for 11 years, no kids. We were a pretty chubby couple until 2 years ago when I had a blood test, and it came out that I was prone to contracting diabetes, gout, and hypertension. It really scared me, and we both, bit by bit, started to lead a very healthy life. I went from 117 to 85 kilograms, and my wife, let's call her Jane, from 83 to 65 kilograms. We felt great, and needless to say, I never developed those diseases. We attended a gym almost daily in the afternoon, where another person worked as a coach. Let's call him Baldy. When my wife started getting in shape, I noticed most guys turned to see her. I felt so proud of her. She is fairly busty, and she has magnificent legs. Of course, Baldy wasn't the exception. I noticed Baldy likes to check women's behinds. I've seen him doing it several times, and he likes to show off how ripped he is. When Jane and I were regulars at the gym, I noticed she was enjoying the attention she got from men. Once, we were using the elliptical machines. In front of them, there is a cable machine. Baldy took off his t-shirt and started doing crossovers. I turned to Jane with my face of, "Can you believe this guy?" But she was staring at him, and she wet her lips. I saw Baldy, and I swear he was grinning. I felt crushed. I mean, I was getting in shape, but I am not as muscular and fit as he is. When we were driving home, I made a comment about Baldy showing off, and Jane said, "Really? I didn't notice." I told her, "You were staring." She said, "I don't remember. I must have been thinking about something else." I shrugged it off and kept driving, but from there on, I noticed they were talking more frequently at the gym. Some weeks later, Jane was doing squats using the Smith machine. Suddenly, Baldy went to help her. Isn't he nice? He was grabbing her by the waist, and I got angry. She finished the first set, and I got there and told him in a not nice way, "I got it from here." Baldy just smiled and told me, "No problem, buddy." He calls everybody buddy, and walked off. Jane knows me very well, and when she heard my angry tone, she said, "My God." I told her, "We'll discuss this at home." At home, drama blew up. She called me immature and jealous. I told her I noticed he was trying to get into her pants. She said that she knows that, but she would never cheat on me. I said then why she let him touch her, and she said she didn't want to be rude. About an hour later, arguing, we agreed to change gyms. So we went to another place to exercise. But Jane was resentful at me in the following months. Her argument was that I don't trust her. On the third month after we changed gyms, a very good opportunity opened up in my job, but in the afternoon. We discussed it and I took it, and we had to attend the gym at different hours. I went in the morning and Jane in the afternoon. This is when it all went south. Jane's resentment increased and we barely spoke. I sent her messages telling her about my day, that I miss her, memes. But she rarely replied, or just with, "Yes, okay, same here, haha." I was very worried and proposed couples therapy. She said I was the one who needs therapy because I'm the one with trust issues. I agreed. I was so desperate to fix our marriage that I even thought it was all my fault. So, the following year, 2022, I went to therapy, but Jane's behavior didn't change. We weren't intimate anymore. She never was in the mood. I snooped through her phone, but didn't find anything out of the ordinary. I looked into her car for a second phone. Nothing. I checked her phone again to see her map history. It only showed me housework, house, gym, house. Whenever I tried to talk to her, she just said she feels that she's having a 40s phase. It'll pass. I never had any evidence of cheating, so I continued working and worrying. We live in a condo. The security guard, a very cheerful man called Mr. P, greeted me. We chat a lot. He was touching his shoulder and told me yesterday he had to move a heavy sofa and he has some pain today. I was sympathetic, and he dropped the bomb. "Maybe you can arrange a meeting with your masseuse." I told him, "Who?" He said, "The guy who came yesterday to massage Mrs. Jane." It took me a second to process this. I told him, "Do you have a video of him?" I think he noticed I was pale and hurried to show me. Guess who? Baldy, of course. He has come a few times to massage my wife. I took the day off and started investigating. I asked a coworker for his car, and in the afternoon, I followed Jane. She parked her car at the mall where the gym is, and there is Baldy waiting for her. They giggle and behave like a couple, kisses, hugs, and I feel nearly to tear. They walk a couple of blocks and go into a residential area. I tried to follow them with my phone ready to record, but the guard stopped me and asked, "Can I help you?" I just said, "What a nice couple, do you know them?" He said he thinks they are newlyweds, but can't tell me anything else. I called Jane but never answered. I went to her car in the mall and wondered, why doesn't that place show on the map? I dialed again, and I can hear her phone inside her car. That's why. I also found out Jane hasn't attended the gym in 8 months. I didn't know that the previous night was the last day I slept with Jane in the same bed. I returned the car and went home and called my parents. Fortunately, my dad answered, and I told him everything. I was crying, and he comforted me and told me to get evidence. Obviously, my marriage is over, and I need all I can gather while he'll contact one of his friends, who is an excellent divorce lawyer. Jane called me when she saw the 2 missing calls. I just told her I was already at home, and she told me, "I'm on my way from the gym. My behind is killing me." Yeah, I can guess. When she saw me, she asked, "What happened? Why did you cry?" I don't know how, but I was mentally focused. I smiled and told her I got the flu. That's why I left work early. "Don't come near me. It might be the bug. I'll be tested tomorrow. I'll sleep in the spare room." She agreed. I cried silently and didn't sleep a wink. Nearly midnight, I heard her giggling. I guess she's messaging Baldy, but I didn't find any evidence of contacting another man. Then it hit me. Why didn't I see it earlier? I bet AP is disguised as one of her female co-workers. In the morning, while Jane was in the shower, I took her phone and created a session on my laptop and put her phone back in the same place. We both can unlock our phones. The session works while the phone is close to my laptop or in the same Wi-Fi account. Then I saw it. Under a female name, the profile picture was a dumbbell. I entered, and most of the conversations were deleted. I guess they use work words as code in case I snooped. "Can you deliver the papers to my desk?" I know she doesn't have a desk at work. "Going to the meeting, where are you?" On top of them, boss is in his office. He's clueless. Pretty clever. I guess I am boss because I know her boss is a woman. Jane got out of the shower and saw me. "You look worse. Why don't stay with your parents?" I denied the idea, thinking of getting evidence. After Jane went out, I contacted my dad and gave me the name and number of the lawyer. I called him and explained everything. He told me the captures I took from my laptop are useless. They don't have any factual evidence since it's not AP's name. And she was smart enough to leave pieces of conversation that look pretty innocent. I can take pictures of them at the mall, but she can argue they are just good fellows, and I can't invade the residential area without permission because it might get me into more trouble. At work, I was in zombie mode, thinking about how to get evidence. I might install secret cameras in my house, but Baldy rarely goes to my home, and Jane might find them. Unless I'm out of the picture. I texted Jane and told her I'm positive for the bug, and I'll stay at my parents' because I might need help. She liked the idea and told me she would miss me, but she'll call me every day. When I hung up, I called my dad and my brother. When I got home, she had already packed a suitcase for me. She was so eager to get rid of me. I told her I'll take my laptop, and then I checked her messages. "Boss will be out of the office. Wanna come to my desk?" She sent this message almost after I told her I was positive for the bug. "Good," she bit. We didn't have dinner, no kisses, no hugs. I noticed her watching her watch twice. From the door, I told her, "I'll miss you." I was expecting her to shut the door on my face, but she walked me to my car, and I was gone. My dad and brother were outside the building waiting for Baldy to appear, but he didn't show up. After half an hour, I thought, why did she walk me to my car? Of course, because Baldy was already inside the building, waiting perhaps inside her car. It would be very suspicious if her masseuse came at this hour. I came back, hurried to my house, and entered silently. I heard music coming from the bedroom and the moaning. Next to the door, there is a sofa. His and her clothes were on it. I put my phone to record and opened the bedroom door. And there she was, my wife, the love of my life for 11 years, on all fours, and Baldy behind her. I got a very good few seconds of both of their faces when they saw me open the door. Jane screamed and covered herself with the blanket. Baldy went alpha male immediately, walking naked towards me. I took a shot of him with my wife. He yelled aggressively at me, "Why don't you go for a walk, buddy?" I hit his throat with my hand opened. I saw this movement in the Mel Gibson movie Ransom. The next second, Baldy was coughing and gasping, kneeling on the floor. I yelled, "Get out of my house!" and kicked him out. I threw his clothes at him when my dad, brother, and Mr. P were arriving at my house. I told them, "I'll take it from here," and closed the door. Jane was still on the bed, covering herself. She was trembling. I told her, "I have never hurt you, nor will I. Get dressed. I'll wait for you in the living room." While I was waiting, I sent the video to my lawyer, and he answered, "I'm sorry for you, but jackpot." A few minutes later, Jane showed up. She couldn't see me in the eyes. I started recording the conversation. I asked, "Why?" She didn't answer. "Was I such an awful husband to you?" She started crying, but didn't answer. "Do you love him?" She shook her head, but no words. I stood up and hit the table. "Say something, Jane. Damn it." She opened her eyes wide and started trembling again, like a puppy when it's scared. I had never yelled at her before. I sat and talked calmly. "My lawyer will contact you for the divorce. Get a lawyer." She finally spoke. "We can fix this." "Fix what? Our marriage was over since Baldy was in the picture, and you chose him over me." "It was a mistake." "No, it wasn't. It was a choice. You chose, and this is the consequence." "What did you think would happen when I found out?" Silence again. "Go to your sisters and tell her the truth, or I will show her the video." She went to the bedroom and started packing. I followed her and watched. Since 2 days ago, I was trying to convince myself my wife is long gone. The person who I shared my house with is not my wife, but seeing her, putting her clothes inside the suitcase neatly, with her gracious movements and those little things I love about her, hit me hard. I went to the spare room and started ugly crying. I heard when she closed the main door. She picked her clothes that were on the sofa. She made the bed where I caught them, and I dropped to the floor. So much later, I called my dad. He told me Baldy wanted to press charges, but Mr. P told him he didn't sign in, so he's trespassing. The condo can sue him. He dropped it and went out. My nosy brother pressed his ear to the door, and my dad took him by the other ear to his car. I was exhausted. The previous days, I didn't sleep well, so I almost passed out in the spare room. The next morning, my phone had a lot of Jane's messages apologizing and asking for a second chance. I just blocked her. My sister-in-law called me. Apparently, Jane hasn't told her what happened, just that we're fighting. I guess it's good my father-in-law is not alive to see Jane's behavior. She was the youngest and his favorite. My mother-in-law has senile dementia. All this happened a week ago. Next week, Jane is going to be served. Update 2. Hi, everybody. I'm back with a juicy update. You'll enjoy this as much as I do. I'd like to cover some points before starting the update. First, I want to thank everybody who contacted me and gave me advice, congratulated me, or just let me know they care. I've read from other posts that the support you get is mind-blowing, but it's the first time I've experienced so much care from strangers. From the bottom of my heart, thank you. Second, as you can guess, English is my second language, so I messed up in some sentences and confused prepositions. Sorry about that. Also, I wrongly said Jane was doing sit-ups. She was doing squats. Third, to those who think my story is fake, you are entitled to think whatever you want. I just hope my testimony helps someone in the future, as much as others have helped me. Fourth, about how I hit AP. It was not a fancy ninja punch, just a chop in the throat that, frankly, was lucky I reacted before Baldy did. I won't lie, seeing him on the floor coughing felt great. Fifth, some of the readers found a post I made in Ask Reddit a month before D-Day. It never got posted because I didn't understand the rules of the community, and today it isn't important anymore. A quick summary. Jane and I were trying to be parents for 10 years. In the 8th year, we saved enough money to buy 3 opportunities at the most expensive and successful reproduction clinic here in my country. All 3 attempts failed. Jane started her affair during the 3rd one. That's the clinic where my blood was tested, and considering the history of diseases from my family, they gave me the probabilities of developing diabetes, gout, hypertension, and having strokes. I should thank them. Someone mentioned that Jane intentionally aborted in the 3rd attempt because it might be AP's baby. Well, that's not possible because it's almost impossible for her to conceive naturally. The embryos were fertilized in vitro and then implanted directly into her womb. I tried to repost my question, but she came and told me, "I don't want to have kids anymore," so I dropped it. I am sure Baldy doesn't have anything to do with her decision. This is important for later. Let's continue with the update. It's been 12 days since D-Day. What have I been doing since then? D-Day +1, Friday. I had a nice chat with Mr. P, who confessed he faked his shoulder pain. He just wanted to warn me about Baldy. Also, he told me a very nosy neighbor saw when I kicked Baldy naked from my apartment. Surely in a week, the whole condo will know my situation. My brother came to help me change the lock on the door. When he left, I felt so alone and cried a lot. I called my job to ask for a day off. At night, I spoke to my lawyer. He said he's making the divorce papers. He couldn't start until he had the evidence. So, my divorce will be a divorce by mutual consent, which is smoother than an uncaused divorce, which is longer and pretty nasty. Also, he told me not to share the video. Jane will be served in 2 weeks. Sister-in-law called me, but I told her to ask Jane why we're divorcing. D-Day +2, Saturday. Sister-in-law came, and I showed her the video. I drove her home and saw Jane's car. When I got home, I still felt crushed and cried some more. D-Day +3, Sunday. I visited my parents. My mom cried with me. She really loved Jane. My dad had a chat with me about my money, properties, and stuff. When I returned home, Mr. P told me Jane and Baldy showed up. I guess they are going to make their relationship public now that the cat is out of the bag. But strangely, they came at different times. Jane came in the morning, she parked her car and saw mine wasn't there. Tried to enter my house, but her key doesn't work anymore. Then she asked Mr. P if he knew where I went. He didn't know and told her, "Mr. O.P. gave me this for you, my attorney's card." She kept it and left. Baldy came in the afternoon and first asked to see Jane. Mr. P told him, "Mrs. Jane," emphasis on Mrs., "doesn't live here anymore." Then asked to see me, and Mr. P told him, "Mr. O.P. is away. No idea when he'll return." And he left. I guess they both are not in contact yet. I wanted to ask about Jane. Is she sad? Did she look healthy? Did she ask about my well-being? But then I remembered D-Day and just thanked and said goodnight to Mr. P. When I got home, I cried a lot again. D-Day +4, Monday. I didn't want to, but something I learned from all you champions is to hit the gym hard. So I looked for a new gym near my job and had a good session. I felt pretty good. Then I returned to work. At home, I didn't cry this time and started taking out all of Jane's pictures. D-Day +5, Tuesday. Had a meeting with my lawyer to review my assets. Fortunately, my dad made Jane sign a prenup, so she can't touch anything I had before we got married. My house mainly. All remaining stuff gets divided 50-50, and I can get compensation for her adultery. As compensation, I'm going to opt out of alimony. I can fight for all the stuff, but everything reminds me of her, and I want to start anew. When I left home, I heard whispers. I turned my head and saw 2 neighbors who immediately pretended they didn't see me. They walked in front of me and greeted me. I knew this would happen. After that, I went to the gym and work. This repeats all week, so I'm going to omit. D-Day +6, Wednesday. Nothing interesting. I only have Facebook as social media. I ignore all DMs asking me to contact Jane. I closed it and opened Reddit, and had a nice time reading about all you champions that overcame what I have been experiencing. I felt better, so I thought of sharing my own experience. D-Day +7, Thursday. I started writing. I posted it before going to the gym. When I was at work, it amazed me how many people were reacting to my story. I answered some comments. D-Day +8, Friday. I was reading comments and answering all morning. I was smiling. It feels good to be appreciated. 2 comments stuck in my mind that I didn't think about. 1. Report AP to my old gym. And 2. My home is tainted. I need a fresh start. So, before I went to the gym, I looked for real estate agents to sell or rent my house. I'm not comfortable here anymore. I haven't entered my bedroom since D-Day. I've been sleeping in the spare room. I don't want to live like this. D-Day +9, Saturday. Since Jane would come and bother me, I decided to spend the day outside. She did come. Then she visited my parents and brother. They just texted me. Jane came. I answered, "Thank you. I don't want to talk about her yet." D-Day +10, Sunday. I spent the day with my parents. We visited a town 2 hours from the city and had a blast. I don't know if Jane came. My dad told me not to sell my house but to rent it. I agree and went home. When I got home, Mr. P told me Baldy came in the afternoon and alone again. He asked for me, but Mr. P told him I'm away. He left without a word. D-Day plus 11, Monday. Yesterday, Monday morning, I went to my old gym. I was not sure if I'd meet Baldy. He worked in the afternoon, but he was with my wife in the afternoon, so I thought he's changed his shift. He was nowhere. I asked to talk to Frank, the gym owner. While I was waiting for him, I met an old janitor I used to chat with. He told me to say hi to Miss Jane. I guess my new normal is to tell everybody we split up. I smiled at him. Frank finally received me. I asked about Baldy. He told me Monday is his day off. He asked for more hours and now works from Tuesday to Sunday in the morning. Then I explained the reason for my visit. He listened carefully until I finished and finally showed him the video. He stayed silent, thinking. Then he said, "You're not going to like this." I just thought, what now? Frank called the receptionist to bring in Harry, another coach and Baldy's friend, known for his big beard. Frank asked him to tell me about Baldy's girlfriend. Fasten your seatbelts. This is good. According to Harry, Baldy is head over heels for Jane, and Frank confirmed it. He told me Baldy had many complaints, especially from female members, but for the last few months, he has changed. No complaints, and he's very professional with all members. And Harry told me something that made my jaw drop. Baldy is trying to marry Jane by baby-trapping her. I was processing this information when I felt something starting from my chest. It climbed up my throat and finally blew up in my mouth. I laughed. I swear I was Joker madly laughing. I even teared up a bit. Frank and Harry were very confused. I thought, oh, sweet karma, thank you, after I calmed down. But with a big grin on my face, Harry asked what was going on, and Frank explained, "This is Baldy's girlfriend's husband." Harry made a shocked face. "Oh, man, this is bad. This is really messed up." Harry left. Next, we discussed firing Baldy. Frank said he has to report the situation to the Coach Association, not the real name, and he surely has to fire him because Jane was a gym member, or Frank's gym could face legal repercussions. About his license as a coach, I need to make a legal document explaining Baldy is the reason for my divorce, the key number of my divorce case, and the video. My attorney will give the video to the Coach Association's attorney. I can't share it. Baldy will lose his license from that association, but he can go to another association and apply for another license. It'd take months, though. I asked if Baldy can appeal. Frank said he might, but it would be a waste of energy. The association does not tolerate such conduct. Also, he doesn't have the money to pay for someone who represents him. That reminded me of the residential area where he entered with Jane. I thought Baldy was wealthy. Frank brought his face closer to me. What residential area? I showed him on the Maps app. You tailed them to this place? I did, on D-Day -1. Frank got angry. That's where my late father's house is. After Frank's father passed away, he inherited the house. All the equipment that's obsolete or needs repair goes to that house. He lent Baldy the key to go and keep some stuff occasionally, but he does not have permission to stay there. He surely has a copy of the key, and he might be living there illegally. He's going to investigate this further. It'll be easy since there are tons of cameras in that place. I was leaving the gym when I heard, "Mr. OP, wait!" It was Harry. He told me he was sorry about what's happening. Baldy never told him who his girlfriend was. He just said that he met her at XXX Mall. I thanked him and took a step towards the exit when he rushed. "Can you tell me what happened?" I told him, "Pretty much what you heard. He was having an affair with my wife, and now I'm divorcing her." Another step. "What will happen to Baldy?" "That depends on Frank and the Coach Association." I tried to take another step. "But how are you handling it?" Okay, now this is strange. I stared at Harry and remembered Baldy went to my house twice. I said, "You called Baldy and he's on his way here, right? You're just buying time. Am I wrong?" He made a guilty face. "Please, Mr. OP, talk to him. He's really desperate. He was crying yesterday. His your wife, isn't returning his calls. Tell me, why should I care if he's rotting in hell? I'll be here with you so you don't get scared." I laughed. Scared? Of that weakling? He didn't tell you I kicked him out of my house naked, right? Harry didn't believe me. Fine, let's see what he wants. I saw there are cameras where we were talking and sat in front of a table in the reception. I don't think Baldy is stupid enough to attack me, but who knows? Besides, I'm really curious about what he wants. He came running 10 minutes later and saw me waiting for him. He extended his hand. I crossed my arms and left him with his hand hanging. What the hell do you want? I looked angrily directly into his eyes. He sat in front of me. Listen, buddy. Stop right there. We're not buddies. Mr. S, the janitor, is my buddy. You are not. He seemed apologetic. Okay, my bad. I want to say I'm sorry for everything. I never wanted to hurt you, and I really care about Jane. Well, you just told 3 lies to my face. You are not sorry. You did intend to destroy my life, and you just care about yourself. He changed from apologetic to annoyed. Okay, whatever, man. Just tell me where Jane is. The last time I saw her was when I kicked her cheating behind out of my house after I kicked you out naked. I know Harry was listening. Baldy's face changed color to red. That was a cheap shot. I should sue you. As far as I know, you entered my home illegally, and perhaps you were assaulting my wife. I have videos of you getting out, but you didn't sign in. He changed again. Okay, I'm sorry. Tell me what you want from me. Please tell Jane I need to speak to her. At that moment, Frank came in a rush. I guess he saw through the cameras that Baldy showed up. Everything okay here? Everything is fine, Frank. I was just telling this sissy what I want. I stand up and talk close to Baldy's face. What I want is what is coming for you. What you deserve. What the law has prepared for you. I want to crush your dreams just like you did with mine. You want kids? Guess what? You won't and you will never have. Baldy said, What's that supposed to mean? But Frank asked him to see him in his office. Harry looked impressed. He grabbed Baldy's arm and pulled him. Dude, you're in deep shit. I finally left. D-Day plus 12, 2. I feel I am ready to face Jane now. I'm still grinning while I type this. So, how have you been? Update 3. Hi again. I didn't expect to update so soon, but something important has happened. I'd like to share something that my therapist told me. Do you remember I started therapy because Jane suggested I was having trust issues? Turns out, I don't have any. I'm one step away from becoming a very gullible person. However, the therapist noticed I have a lot of insecurities due to my obesity. Since I remember, I was the chubby, nerdy guy at school. Never the boyfriend, always the best friend. I had my first girlfriend at 18, and she dumped me a week later for a better-looking guy. I went to an engineering high school, so ladies were few. My next relationship was in my 20s with a very toxic girl who blamed me for everything, even for the rain. She really did a number on me, making me feel guilty for anything that popped into her mind. Later, I started working because my family had money problems, and I didn't have another relationship until I met Jane at university. The session before the last one with my therapist, we discussed my feelings about not having kids. She has helped me get my priorities in order. Number 1, me and everything that covers myself, like physical, health, gym, and eating well, intelligence, studying, learning, mental challenges, and soul, beliefs, morals, ethics. Number 2, people who live with me, Jane. Number 3, family and friends. Number 4, work. Number 5, leisure and entertainment. The last session was about Jane. The therapist asked about my plans. I told her I will divorce Jane. She told me it is normal I'm in such distress because my priority too is crumbling. I will have to pass through similar stages of grieving death: denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. I had to Google them because I forgot. I am in the bargaining stage because I'm thinking a lot of what ifs, for example. What if she really is remorseful? What if we're the golden couple who will survive infidelity? But the reality is that I will never trust her again. It will kill me knowing she's at home alone, doing God knows what when I'm at work. Torture for me. Depression is a dangerous stage in my case because it could lead me to gain weight again. I should stick to the gym and watch my diet closely. Hope this info helps people who are grieving. Now here's the update. I've been very busy. I applied for a promotion at my job, which I could have taken a long time ago, but it demands a lot of traveling. I feel it will help me heal to be away. Also, I've been looking for a new place to live and found a small apartment perfect for me. I've already paid 3 months of rent in advance. I'll move as soon as possible. I haven't seen Jane since D-Day or Baldy since that Monday, when I am sure he was fired. On the bright side, one of my neighbors, a lady in her 50s, met me in the condo's elevator. She told me she hasn't seen Jane lately. I told her we're splitting apart, and then she happened to remember she's having a dinner, and her single niece is coming for a few days, and I'm invited. It took me by surprise. Looks like I'm on the market again. My attorney told me Jane was going to be served last Friday, but we had some festivities in my country, so she was served last Sunday morning at my in-laws' home. The following Monday, somebody, Jane, I guess, slid a letter under my door. 3 sheets, back and front, from Jane, mainly explaining what led her to cheat. Here we'll introduce the second villain in the story, a co-worker we'll call Flirty. I've met her a few times at Jane's work events, like Christmas or anniversary celebrations. She's really thin, almost skinny, and usually wears a lot of makeup. Also, she thinks every man wants to sleep with her. One time, she told Jane I was staring at her. I did once because I could see her ribs, and I thought she was unhealthily thin. Anyway, according to Jane's letter, when she lost weight, Flirty approached her because she wanted them to be best friends since they are the two hotties at work. That's when the brainwashing started. Flirty made her think she deserves a better man. She's entitled to it. She told her I was a pathetic man that would try to own her now that she's hot. When the incident with the Smith machine happened, Flirty said to Jane, See? Didn't I tell you? He wants to be your owner more than your husband. Jane bought it, and due to Flirty's manipulation, she was resentful towards me for months. When we attended the gym at different times, Jane met Baldy accidentally at the mall, and he approached her. She confessed she had a crush on a guy similar to Baldy before she met me. She never told me that before. They went for a bite, and they both flirted. Jane showed Flirty Baldy's picture from FB, and she told her she would be a dumb bitch if she didn't sleep with him. Besides, her pathetic husband, me, doesn't compare with that Greek god. She had the opportunity, she was eager to, so she did. Baldy took her to his house, which coincidentally is close to the mall where they ran into each other, so she doesn't know that's Frank's dad's home. All this happened 9 months ago. Flirty is a professional cheater. She told Jane how to cover her tracks, the work words code, to hide Baldy's contact, and to hide her map tracking history. She even told her that changing her phone password is stupid because I'll immediately suspect. Jane noticed Baldy hated when she talked about me, and as punishment, he made hickeys on her body. Now I remember she started wearing pajamas to sleep because it was cold. He used to trash me, but she never played along. Meanwhile, Flirty used to tell her that she's entitled to this romance, and I deserve being cheated on because I'm a beta. During those months, she says she liked the feeling of danger, the thrill, and the sex with Baldy was good. But it also hurt her seeing me struggle trying to be a better husband, and knowing she was the reason for my pain. It was easier to ignore me and continue with the pleasure Baldy gave her. D-Day arrives. I completely blindsided her. She thought I was clueless. I'm going to write this part just like she wrote it. I was in shock and covered myself with the blanket by pure instinct. When I reacted, I saw you pushing and kicking Baldy out of the room and the house. When I heard you closing the door and coming back, I didn't know what to say. I have never seen you this angry before. Then you said, I have never hurt you, nor will I. That's true. In the years we've known each other, you have never hurt me. Not even when we found out that it's my fault we can't have children. After that, she heard me crying in the spare room. She wanted to comfort me, but how could she? In the main door, we have a mirror to check ourselves before going out. She looked at herself but couldn't bear the look. When she entered her car, she cried and told herself, What have I done? Baldy called her that night, but she blocked him. She arrived at sister-in-law's house at about midnight, 2 hours later after the drama. Her house is around 40 mins from mine. She was scared of telling sister-in-law what happened, because she's older and has a very strong character. Next day, she told Flirty what had happened. Flirty told her she should be happy to have gotten rid of me. I'm going to copy this part too. J. And then what? F? Babe, you are free. You can have sex with Baldy or any guy you want. J. And then F. I don't follow you. J. What will happen when I'm tired of having sex with a bunch of guys? F. Then you can decide which one to date seriously. J. And then what? F. I don't know. Get married, I suppose. J. But I already had a marriage. F. But it was with OP. He's a loser. I bet Baldy is 100 times better than him. J. No, that's not true. He gave me a good life. F. Don't settle for so little. You can have a better man. Then they proceeded to have a big fight in front of the co-workers. She can't recall it well, but she remembers swearing and yelling at her. Flirty told her that any guy hotter than me is better than me. I don't get what she has against me. But Jane realized what she destroyed. She was inconsolable, and her boss let her go home early. The next day is when I showed sister-in-law the video. Jane was babysitting sister-in-law's twins. After I drove her home, sister-in-law asked Jane to help her go do some errands. Just the two of them. That was a lie. They parked at a park, and she demanded to know what was happening in her head to cheat on me. Jane cried and told her, I don't know. Sister-in-law confessed she was envious of our marriage. 11 years, and not a single huge fight. We both looked happy. She couldn't believe her little sister was capable of such a thing. Jane was there for sister-in-law when her ex-husband left her for another woman. Jane asked her not to kick her out, but sister-in-law told her she can stay. After all, that house belongs to both of them. But she let her know she's very disappointed, and she will side with me if I ever need her help. Jane understood. Next Sunday, Jane came to apologize, but I was not home. When she received my attorney's card, she called, and my attorney confirmed I had hired him. She knew I was really going to divorce her, so she went to her new home and wrote a confession, and sent it to everybody we both know. I started receiving messages and phone calls the following week, but I didn't want to read or answer them. Now I've read some of the DMs, and it is what she said. Most of them want to comfort me. One of her cousins said it takes guts to confess, so I should give her a try. The following week she tried to distract herself with work, but it seems everybody now knows she cheated. In my country, if you are unfaithful, people see you as an easy woman. So female co-workers don't talk to her, particularly Flirty, and male co-workers are annoyingly friendly to her. She asked to be relocated, but it'll take months, so she quit her job the following Friday. She has a good amount of savings. We had our finances separated, and since I was the bigger earner, I paid for almost everything. The next day, she was looking for me, in her words, to beg me to take her back. She came here, but when she saw I wasn't home, she went to my parents. My dad refused to speak to her, but my mom was sympathetic and told her that she's sorry about all this. But her son, me, is really hurt and asked them not to talk about her anymore. Jane understood, but then went to my brothers. He told her, OP is not here, and frankly, I don't want to talk to you, and closed the door in front of her face. She came back to her new house very sad. All last week, she has been reflecting on her actions and has been really depressed, realizing how much damage she has done to our relationship, to her family, and mine. And all for meaningless pleasure, coming from a douchebag who, in her words, believes vaccines are just a pharmacy scam, and believes in astrology. Yeah, Baldy is heavily tattooed. He has a Taurus sign on his arm. Sister-in-law suggested she go to therapy. I don't blame her. If my brother were in the same situation, I'd be very disappointed, but I'd try to make him realize what is wrong with him. She finally went to therapy, and her therapist suggested writing me this letter and coming clean to me. So she says, all written in the letter is true. She swears on her life, if I take her back, there will be no spouse in the history of humanity more grateful, loyal, and honest than her. She suggests total access to her social media that I already had. She will always answer my calls, no matter the situation, and never have friends that I don't approve of. And there are more things about family and friends that I don't think are important to share. Besides, it needs a lot of context. Finally, she pleads to meet me and let her apologize properly to my face. In her words, sorry doesn't start to describe what I'm feeling right now. What do I think of this letter? The things I can confirm are that she hasn't contacted Baldy since that Monday when he was fired, and she confessed to family and friends. The rest could be partially true. Also, I am sure it's been sweetened. For example, she does not mention when she called me jealous and immature. She does not mention letting Baldy do her raw, and she let him finish inside. She can give me all her passwords, but she lied to my face and gaslit me for 9 months, according to her, and she was very good at it. Besides, I don't want to be her jailer. As I said, I will never trust her ever again. Whenever I see her face, I'll also see Baldy's nape in front of her. I will not be her second option, nor will I be a doormat. I haven't replied yet, but I think I'll see her next weekend. Update 4. Hi, champions. I'm back. Thank you to all who contacted me. I've been silent because I needed time to reflect, and I finally got it. Thank you very much. It's been some very rough days. For those who want to know, I did meet Jane. No, I didn't answer her letter. It was due to a dumb mistake I made. I'll explain. A few days after my last post, I had an anxiety attack due to the stress I had bottled up, according to my therapist. My life had undergone a 180-degree change, and my mind hadn't had time to adjust. It was my first time experiencing this kind of episode. I thought I was having a stroke. Tachycardia, sweating, and panic clouded my judgment. My co-workers dialed emergency services, and an ambulance came for me. If I hadn't been so scared, I'd have enjoyed the ride. I was very sure that at any moment I'd croak. The paramedic repeated to me, "Mister, you are having a panic attack. Everything is going to be fine." I tried to focus on his words, but I couldn't. My only thoughts were, I'm going to die. At the hospital, they sedated me, and I started to feel better and sleepy. I could answer questions. The doctor asked for my name, my age, what day it was. I could answer correctly until I passed out. When I woke up, guess who was next to me? Jane. I forgot to remove her name and number from my emergency contact. I was very confused due to the drugs. I smiled at her and said, "Jane?" She was sitting, reading a book, and when she heard me, she jumped off her seat and approached me. She had tears in her eyes and told me, "Hello, my love. You really scared us." That's when everything came back to me. I stopped smiling and asked, "What are you doing here?" I tried to sit, but my body felt numb and clumsy. She shushed me and told me, "Take it easy, no sudden movements. I'll get the doctor." She kissed my forehead and left. I wanted to evade the kiss, but my reflexes were numb. That kiss felt so familiar, but I know it has been more than a year since she kissed me with sincere love. While she was gone, I looked around me. I was in a big room with other 6 beds, 4 of them with patients, all separated by curtains for privacy. I also noticed I wasn't wearing my clothes but a hospital robe. A few minutes later, she came back with the doctor. I had slept for 26 hours. The doctor explained all about the anxiety attack I had suffered. He asked me if I had stopped taking any medication, but Jane and I answered almost at the same time, "I don't take any medication." I hate how well she knows me. The doctor told me the episode stemmed from heavy stress or a sudden change in my life, or both. I glanced at Jane, but she hid her eyes. He ordered some days off to reflect and get some therapy. I told him I'm already in therapy, but the doctor said I need to see a psychiatrist. My therapist is a thanatologist and psychologist, so she can't prescribe medication. He mentioned that I must be hungry and that I'd be discharged the next day, then he left. It was 8 p.m., so Jane had another hour until visiting hours were over, and she didn't look like she wanted to leave. It felt awkward, and that feeling led me to chatter like an idiot. So I asked, "You said, you scared us. Who are us?" She smiled. I bet she knew I couldn't resist talking. "Your parents and me, they were here in the morning." "Did they leave?" "Yes, they are waiting for my call. I'll talk to them tomorrow. You can leave. I want to sleep." "But your dinner is almost here." When the doctor mentioned I must be hungry, my stomach grumbled. I hadn't eaten anything for 26 hours. A few minutes later, a veteran nurse came with a tray on a cart. She asked Jane to adjust the bed so I'd be in a sitting position to eat. I don't know what kind of face I made because Jane was amused and staring at me while the nurse arranged the tray in front of me on my bed. I'm an ex-glutton guy. She said, "God, I love you so much." I glared at her again and asked her one more time to go home, but the nurse got really mad at me. According to her, Jane had sponge-bathed me and even shaved me. I hadn't noticed until she told me. Finally, she asked Jane to feed me because I was still coming out of the meds. I told her we're getting divorced, but she said that's not her problem, and I should be thankful she's been here to help, and that I am a very ungrateful person. Then she left. I refused her help and tried to eat, even though my movements were very clumsy. I was making a mess with the soup, and Jane begged me to let her help me. I felt like a spoiled brat making a tantrum. I just said, "Fine," and let her feed me. I never felt so vulnerable before. She behaved very maternally and affectionately. I could have a close look at her. She wasn't wearing makeup. I saw more lines of expression, And also, she now has crow's feet. I felt better after I finished eating. She took the tray out of the room. She was in a good mood. I saw a patient in front of me, a man in his 50s, checking Jane out when she went out and came back. I'm not surprised. She was wearing a coat and jeans, but she's very pretty. I didn't like the feeling of being in debt to her. When she sat down, I said, "Thanks for being here." She looked me in the eyes and smiled. "Anytime." She tried to comb my hair with her hand, but I could reject her this time. She looked hurt, and I didn't say anything. She tried to grab my hand, but I removed it, and she said, "Can we talk, please?" I remained silent. There are only 2 reasons for me to at least be cordial to her: the twins. They weren't baptized when they were toddlers, but after my sister-in-law's ex went away, Jane and I supported my sister-in-law and the twins. I love those 2 little rascals with all my heart. When we babysat them, I told Jane this would count as parent training for when we had our own. That will never happen. My sister-in-law asked us to be their godparents, and I teared up with emotion. They are the closest thing I have to a daughter and a son. I know Jane loves them too, and I don't want any drama near my godson and goddaughter, and I miss them so much. I haven't seen them since about a week before D-Day. Also, I haven't spoken to them because I was avoiding Jane. So I told her, "Okay, let's talk. In the condo. I'll contact you soon." She offered to take me home the next day when I get discharged. I told her no. I'll ask my parents to come for me, and I'll see her again in the condo. I wanted to talk to my parents. She noticed I was looking for my clothes. She opened a cabinet next to my bed and gave me my phone. I looked at her suspiciously, and she made her guilty face again, meaning I am sure she snooped through my phone, and she admitted it. We didn't utter a word. That's the language we developed by being married for 11 years. I don't care if she snooped. I have nothing to hide. I texted my parents, and they called almost immediately. While I was talking to them, the same old nurse told Jane visiting hours were over. She wanted to say goodbye, but I ignored her. She whispered in my ear, "I know you keep your word. I'll wait for you to contact me. I love you." She kissed my hair and left. I do keep my word. My father always told me, a man is worth as much as his word. I asked my parents if they knew what happened after I passed out. According to them, one of my coworkers showed up at the hospital to provide information about my medical insurance. That's when the staff saw the emergency contact and called Jane. My sister-in-law contacted them after the hospital called. When Jane arrived, she met my coworker, and he left. Jane was waiting for the doctor assigned to me when my parents arrived. My dad was very cordial to her and inquired about what she knew. After a while, a nurse called out, "Relatives of patient OP." They stood up, and the nurse guided them to the doctor. They had already tested my blood and informed them that I'm physically healthy. My anxiety attack stems from a psychological aspect. The doctor requested Jane to see me because she was the emergency contact. She promised my parents to call them after seeing me. When she returned, she was surprised my parents were still there waiting. She gave them a ride to their home and told them she helped the nurses undress me and put on the hospital robe. They didn't discuss our divorce. My parents thanked her for the ride and agreed to visit in the morning, and she would switch in the afternoon around 1 p.m. Also, I called my sister-in-law to thank her for notifying my parents. Luckily, my godchildren were still up, and I could speak to them. They were drawing "Get well soon" cards for me. I promised to visit next weekend. The next day, Thursday, I was discharged from the hospital. My parents took me to my new home. A week before my panic attack, I had started moving to my new place. I took my personal belongings. Everything else will stay in the condo. I'll rent it as fully furnished. Luckily, there are 3 universities nearby. I know there are students who would kill for a place like mine. I've already bought the basic furniture, a refrigerator, a stove. I have to learn to cook my meals from now on. A bed, a table with chairs, and a desk. Cleaning tools. For the first time, I felt thrilled. I can call this little apartment my own place. I bought a nice warm jacket for Mr. P. I gave it to him, thanked him for his help, and told him I'll visit from time to time. I didn't attend my neighbor's dinner. I don't feel like dating yet. I think I need more therapy and more healing. At my new home, I reflected on my goals regarding meeting Jane. I concluded I need closure to understand her actions, make her understand there is no possible reconciliation, and end things amicably. I'll divorce her and move on, but I don't want to lose my in-laws. my sweet and incoherent mother-in-law, my stubborn and strong sister-in-law, and her twins, who I love. I don't want to miss their birthdays and future achievements. I want to be at least cordial to Jane. At my job, my boss gave me 5 days off starting the next week. I didn't want to stay in, so I went to the beach. It really helped me to be away from everything and rest. I realized I do love my wife, but the version of her that was chubby, the one who got excited when Pizza Fridays arrived, the one who I married 11 years ago, the one who supported my dreams and hopes, the one who hugged me when life got rough. I don't know what happened to her. Did vanity consume her? Horniness? No idea, but I loved my wife deeply, and the one who betrayed me is not my wife. Update 5. Finally, I saw my godchildren. My sister-in-law took them to a park, and I met them there. The 4 of us had a great day. Last weekend, I met with Jane. It went pretty much as I expected, pleading and a lot of crying on both sides. Surprisingly, she didn't blame me. She admitted that it was all on her. When she snooped through my phone, she saw that I had moved from the condo, my Reddit posts, so she knows everything I know. And more importantly to her, that I'm not dating. Before the meeting, I had another session with my therapist and discussed my anxiety attack and the upcoming talk with Jane. She told me the best way to move on is to follow these steps. 1. Hit rock bottom. 2. Identify and take control of your emotions. 3. Focus on self-improvement. 4. Take a break, literally. 5. Be constructive. Many of you champions told me to keep my emotions in check. I am sure I'll get angry, sad, anxious. I mustn't let it cloud my words and judgment. Also, I'm prone to having another anxiety episode. My therapist mentioned some breathing techniques that really helped me. Let's move to last Saturday. I asked Mr. P to check if she was alone. She came on time, alone, and stunning. New short dress, high heels, that she hates, but knows I like her wearing them. I won't lie, my heart skipped a beat. She smiled at me when I opened the door, as if she was so happy to see me. I remained calm and expressionless. She opened her arms expecting a hug, but I gestured for her to come in. I offered tea. She loves chamomile tea. She accepted, and I made myself a coffee. We sat opposite each other, the table between us. I took out my phone and started recording. I tried to write down our conversation word by word, using boxing references, but it was too long and crude, so I gave up. Here's a summary instead. After some awkward small talk, she told me she'd read my post, and the waterworks began. She said the Jane who made me suffer is gone now. She claims that the phenomenon known as a fair fog is real, and she can't believe what she did to me. I told her, "Then you know I think your letter has been sugar-coated." She insisted everything she wrote is true, but I countered that I believe it's BS, that Flirty brainwashed her. She's 10 times smarter than that. I demanded her to tell me the truth. She went silent, and I raised my voice. "No, Jane, you are not allowed to be silent again." I had to breathe because I was getting angry. "You have to come clean to me right now. I know more than what you wrote in your letter." Sadly, she admitted she wanted to sleep with Baldy. She confessed she loved the attention she was receiving, and when she saw Baldy looking at her with desire, she felt thrilled and aroused. She confessed it began before the elliptical machine incident, about a week before, when I was changing clothes in the showers, and she was waiting for me outside. Baldy chatted with her, flirted, and she couldn't believe he was coming onto her. She cried when she told me this. I asked, "Is that what it takes for you to throw your morals and ethics away? A strong body and a bird brain?" From that moment, I referred to Baldy as Bird Brain. She admitted she was really stupid and selfish, and that she had taken me for granted, but she assured me that this was only physical, never emotional. She swears she never said to him, "I love you," and I am the only owner of her heart and her body. I breathed and regained some composure. I told her, "It's been about 3 months since we had sex, and the last time I could tell you weren't into it. I bet you were longing for Bird Brain." She insists that's not true, because according to her, she can't bear a life without me. I said, "I don't believe you. You had a good income. You could easily sustain a decent life with Bird Brain." She repeated she doesn't love him, and he was just a toy. I called BS one more time and reminded her of when I saw them in the mall. I'm going to copy this part. "OP, I saw you at the mall, with him, hugging, kissing like when we were engaged. She was fidgeting. I'm so sorry." OP, tell me the truth. You do love him. She shook her head. I liked how people stared at us, but I don't love him. OP, seems like you were the perfect couple, which would never happen with us, right? You loved the attention, which you would never have with a person like me. J, please don't say that. OP, why not? It's true. It is. I don't perceive myself as an attractive man. I'm the kind of guy anybody wouldn't look twice at. J, no, you are the man of my dreams. I only want to be with you. OP, if you love me so much, then why cheat? What did he give you that I didn't? She couldn't answer the question. I repeated it, and she covered her face with her hands and finally admitted she considered Bird Brain's body more attractive than mine. Another jab. It was something I expected, but damn, it hurt. J, I swear I had a moment of weakness, and I hate myself for that. OP, 1 moment? I yelled again. That moment lasted 9 months. Crying again. It went out of control. OP, 9 months. 9 effing months of disrespect and lies. Tell me, how could I ever trust you again? Was Bird Brain the only one? What will happen when the next douchebag steps in front of you? You were very good at lying and hiding your cheating. Now she looked desperate. I'm telling you the truth. I know you have no reason to believe me. But I've reflected. I've seen my life without you, and I am so sorry. I'm sorry I cheated on you. I'm sorry I lied. I'm sorry your family hates me. But most of all, I am so ashamed I hurt you. I beg for your forgiveness. I'm here to come clean and fix things so we could be together again. A lot of tears fell from her face. Before D-Day, I'd have given an arm to ease those tears. Today, I only felt anger. OP, I think you are not getting it. I can no longer trust you. I can't be your husband anymore. There is no way I can forget you in that room with him. You texted him the very same day I told you I was going to my parents, and you were ready to get rid of me. My God, Jane. Half an hour after I left, he was inside you, and raw, and you even let him finish inside. Why? By this moment, I was crying too, and I forced her to answer. She looked defeated. She said it made Bird Brain more excited, and she liked it, and since she can't get pregnant, she thought it didn't matter. I swallowed saliva because I felt a huge knot in my throat. With a trembling voice, I asked, "What else?" I was fishing for more information. I didn't expect to hear what was coming. Jane couldn't look me in the eyes. She looked down and said, "He made me beg him to finish inside." This was an uppercut to me. I couldn't speak for several minutes. This is when I hit rock bottom. We both cried, and Jane only said, "Forgive me, forgive me." She tried to grab my hand, but I removed it. Then she told me the first time Bird Brain finished inside was the first time she denied intimacy to me. She felt dirty and didn't want me to be tainted. I felt disgusted. I almost threw up. She swears that's when Bird Brain became more demanding and threatened to come and tell me everything because he thinks Jane belongs to him. I couldn't utter a word. I could still feel the knot in my throat. I wiped my tears with my sleeve. I used our sign language to tell her that her makeup was running. She went to the bathroom, and I could catch my breath to calm down a little. While she was away, I confirmed there is no way I'd take her back. I'm so disgusted. I feel like I was gutted out. But also, I knew I needed to know this. I needed to know how deep the rabbit hole goes. I don't want to carry this anger and confusion anymore. When she came back from the bathroom, I told her I can't go on. I need space and time. She said she understood. Before she left, she asked me if I will ever forgive her. I told her I don't know, but I appreciate her honesty. She hugged me. I didn't return the hug. She cried, and I could feel her tears wetting my neck. She swore in the name of my late father-in-law, who was her hero, that she will never cheat on me ever again, that she has gone NC, no contact, with Bird Brain. She called him Bird Brain herself, and to devote her life to us, to our marriage. She even proposed to gain weight again, so I'd be sure she's committed to me. I told her she's talking nonsense. We both made a big effort to lose weight. But she says therapy made her realize she's a narcissist and an attention junkie. I gave her a copy of the condo key to get all her stuff. She finally left. I thought I'd cry a lot, but strangely, I felt a sense of relief. It feels like my mind is telling me, now you can move on. I lay down and reflected a lot. I even skipped a meal. In my mind, I finally accepted the love of my life is gone. I guess I got my closure. Update 6. Several things have happened in the last few months, but today, February 17th, my divorce is complete. I am a single man again. First, let's go back to October 2022. At last, I had a good glimpse of my life as a single man. I've been going to my parents' house to learn to cook. I enjoy cooking a lot. Last weekend, I made bread myself. It was kind of ugly, but delicious. I'll practice a lot to bake a cake for my godchildren for their birthday next March. Also, I noticed I'm very intolerant towards cheating topics. Have you seen the sitcom The Office? It used to crack me up, but now that I saw the cheating and gaslighting, it stopped being funny to me, even if they try to hide it as romance. I can't tolerate it. I bet none of the writers have been cheated on. I spoke to my attorney. He mentioned that Birdbrain's lawsuit proceeded, and that reminded me I wanted to have a chat with Frank. Long story short, I met Frank, and he told me Birdbrain was fired the same Monday I met him. And yes, he was living illegally at Frank's father's house. Since Birdbrain was his employee for years, Frank filed a civil lawsuit for trespassing, meaning he can't be near Frank or any of his properties for the next 5 years. If he does, the cops will be involved. I asked if Jane would be sued too, but he said Birdbrain confessed she was unaware of the whole situation and that she just went to the house to exercise under his guidance. They used the repaired equipment to exercise. Besides, Frank assumed Jane and I were still together, and he felt he owed me that. Frank is very cordial and friendly. He was cheated on in his youth, so he has zero tolerance on the topic. He gave me something. He said, "You're going to love this." He showed me his phone. It was a soundless video from one of his CCTV cameras. It took me a minute to recognize it was showing the gym's cafeteria. All tables are empty but one. There is a man sitting with his back to the camera. Then a huge muscular back appears, and I recognize Harry walking towards the man. I ask, "Is that?" Frank nods, and I continue watching. Harry puts his hand on Birdbrain's shoulder. Then Birdbrain covers his face with his hands. I can tell they are chatting. And finally, both men walk towards the camera, and Birdbrain's face can be seen clearly for a few seconds. Sad expression, red eyes, and tears on his cheeks. The video ends when they are out of the screen. We both laughed. I said I'm going to put this video as my screensaver. It was taken the day before Birdbrain was fired. I've gone to my first session with the psychiatrist. He said I have signs of depression due to my anxiety combined with my insecurities, so he prescribed a mild antidepressant pill daily until the next session. At the time, I didn't feel any different. Also, I started taking kickboxing lessons. My coach told me I have good reflexes, but I have a long way to go. Jane took all her stuff from the condo. She also took our large marriage picture. My brother's friend gave me a good idea. I'll sacrifice the living room to make another bedroom and make the dining room and kitchen a common area. So, it will have 3 bedrooms. I hired a guy to take care of it. My attorney informed me Jane has her own attorney, and he requested a meeting. I asked what I have to do, and he told me to play along. He'll do all the talking. I just have to agree. Unless my lawyer thinks they make an unreasonable request, he'll ask for a timeout to discuss it. The following week, the meeting took place at Jane's attorney's office. Jane was stunning and very quiet. She was trying to steal glances from me. After the proper introductions, her attorney, a man in his 50s, mentioned that since I've already refused to pay alimony, the issue concerning her client won't be mentioned, Jane's adultery. My attorney said that's fine if it is listed for the record, which her attorney reluctantly agreed. Then they proceeded to split our assets, which was pretty fast, because I don't want anything, and Jane said she has taken everything she treasures. Besides, we didn't have expensive stuff. Finally, her attorney asked for 5 sessions of marriage counseling and added that if I agree and attend with an open mind and honesty, his client guarantees a smooth divorce. My attorney reduced them to 3 and no contact between sessions. I made a worried face to my attorney, and he kicked my foot under the table, meaning to play along. I saw Jane, and she was making a face I've seen when she really wants me to do something, so I made my face of, "Okay, you win." And she smiled. Marriage language again. Later, I asked my attorney if marriage counseling is necessary. He said it is because the judge who will be assigned to our case may agree with Jane since she's making the attempt to reconcile while I am not. Or the judge may agree with me and ignore it. So, attending marriage counseling is a necessary risk. I said she was the one who cheated. He told me I've already asked for a compensation, and the judge will overlook her adultery. The judge has the power to divorce us right there, or he may order more counseling or a period for reconciliation. It's like flipping a coin. Moving on to mid-October, we attended the first session. We sat on big sofas, one in front of the other, with the counselor, let's call her Dolores, in the middle. After hearing all the background and the main point of our divorce, she asked both of us what we expect. I said, I just want to be amicable, but still want to divorce. And Jane said she wants to reconcile. Dolores asked for Jane's opinion about my goal, and she said she doesn't want to divorce. She has never stopped loving me. I was about to argue, but the counselor asked me not to interrupt. Then she asked me about Jane's goal, and I said, I don't think we can reconcile because I don't trust her anymore. And I think she's in love with the affair partner, AP. This time, Jane wanted to say something, but the counselor asked Jane not to interrupt. Then she asked me why I think that. I mentioned the gaslighting, how she was giggling the day before D-Day, and how eager she was to get rid of me on D-Day. It was Jane's turn to talk. She swears she does not love Birdbrain. She has never told him, I love you, because she doesn't. She barely spoke to him during the day, even though he was constantly sending messages to her. She assures me she doesn't know important stuff like his birthday, but she confessed she liked the thrill, the secrecy, the staring from other people. She wanted to show me from her phone she wasn't talking to Birdbrain that night. I said her phone is useless because she used to delete conversations. Dolores mentioned there are apps that can recover deleted messages. I said, oh yeah, but Jane was silent, and I could see she was thinking very fast. Dolores and I stared at her, and she was making nervous movements. I said, will you give me your phone? Jane looked like she wanted to argue but kept silent. I said, you are still in contact with him, aren't you? Jane almost screamed, no, I swear, but she was hesitant about giving me her phone, and finally she gave it to me and said, please remember the Jane who texted is not me anymore. I said, what does that mean? I beg you, don't make me say it. I was in the fog. I asked Dolores about this affair fog. She told me from her experience it looks like the judgment is clouded by the excitement and focus on a new relationship, so the subject's mind can't comprehend or just ignores the consequences of their actions. It varies a lot from person to person. Jane told me, original poster, OP, I'm deeply sorry for all I texted to him. Now I can't understand why I was so disrespectful to you. At that moment, I wasn't sure I'd want to know what she meant. If she trashed me like Birdbrain did, it would be a massive blow to me. I confided everything about me to her. Next, Dolores asked me what it takes for me to reconcile. I told her there are two major obstacles I don't see how to overcome. Number 1, she lied for a long time, and I can't trust her anymore. Number 2, I can't be intimate with her ever again since she gave her body to another man. This made Jane tear up. She says it was purely physical, like using a dildo. Besides, she swears Birdbrain wasn't very impressive at all. I reminded her of my reason number 1. She insisted, almost desperate, OP, I have never made love to him. You are the only one. I just felt angry and yelled back. And that's why you didn't touch me for the last months? Dolores asked Jane her reasoning to cheat on me. She spoke about being the chubby girl, bullied and ignored. She was very lonely when she was a teenager. At university, she was friends with some girls, but they tended to leave her behind. If it weren't for her great grades, they would have completely ignored her. Then we met, and it was like finding a twin soul. When she lost weight, all her fat went to very strategic places that made her look voluptuous. At first, it was scary when men stared at her, but when Flirty and her friends told her she's hot and beautiful, and that she must be confident in herself, that's when she started enjoying the attention. And her ego went to the clouds when she saw Birdbrain staring at her too. She told me, you don't know how it feels to be ugly. I told her I do. I lost count of rejections and friend zoning. At work, female colleagues made a list of handsome male colleagues, and I didn't figure in it. I am still unattractive, and I didn't care because I had a person who loved me, but that person traded me for a better-looking guy. That sentence made her tear up again. I belong to an ethnicity that is very bullied in my country, associated with poverty and ugliness. I had very hurtful nicknames, and according to my therapist, that's what made me gain weight, like armor to protect my wounded ego. Dolores asked me if I can see that she's remorseful. I said I can tell she is, but just because she's been caught, not for her cheating. Jane said she knows she screwed up. That's why she confessed to all the people we both know. Dolores was especially interested in this confession and asked Jane why she confessed to people unaware of our marital problems. She said she knew she deserved punishment. It wasn't enough with my anger and cold shoulder. Many people called her and berated her. She listened to every word, every insult, and every swearing. My sister-in-law can confirm she did. She has lost friendships, and mostly my relatives have disowned her, but she gladly took that bitter step if it would help to reconcile with me. I was out of words. Dolores told me most unfaithful people tend to hide their cheating as a denial mechanism, but Jane didn't. She owned her mistake. That's something I should give her credit for. I asked what would have happened if I were still unaware, if today I were still clueless. She said Birdbrain was getting very aggressive, and he was demanding either he or she tells me about the affair. He used to scare her, saying something would happen to me, and she was afraid of what he would do. I scoffed. In her own words, I think you finding out was the best thing that could happen. It made me react and realize how screwed up I was. I told her, I know Birdbrain is in love with her, and she already knew. That's why he hates me and used to trash me, and he was demanding to disrespect me in my own house. He knew if I was in the picture, Jane would never be his. Dolores asked me, what does your wife win by asking for this marriage counseling? If she's so in love with Birdbrain, wouldn't she be eager to divorce you sooner? Why is she making all this effort? I must remind you she has already lost her acquaintances' respect. I couldn't answer. I know I'm not her meal ticket. She had a very decent job and she can get another one easily. She's not homeless nor disowned from her sister. Then I said, for the sake of the argument, let's say we reconcile and we live together again. What would happen then? I'd doubt everything she tells me. Every time I'm not looking, I'd suspect. It'd be torture for me. Jane said, I know it would be difficult, but I'd never give you reasons to doubt me again. I responded, you wouldn't for now, but what about in 2 years when the dust settles? When I have signs of trusting you again and another douchebag catches your eye or stares at you? Jane kneeled in front of me, looking me in the eyes. I'd never hurt you ever again. The 2 most devastating experiences I recently had were when I received the divorce papers and thinking you may have been badly injured when they called me from the hospital. If you give me another chance, I'll always remember these 2 times I thought I lost you and devote my life to making us happy. I was out of words again, so I just scoffed again. By the time the session was over. At home, I checked Jane's phone. I noticed Birdbrain is still blocked. I unblocked him, and a lot of messages came through. Babe, are you okay? Babe, call me. Babe, I'll go to your house to check on you unless you call me first. Babe, where are you? I bought an app to recover deleted messages. I was very nervous. I got most of the earlier messages back. The older ones were difficult, so I got a few of them. I was expecting her to be disrespectful to me, but she tries not to mention me. I found some sexting conversations, but knowing Jane, she didn't enjoy it. Birdbrain uses rude words a lot, and Jane hates that. He called her Babe and some other ridiculous pet names I didn't even dare to use when we were in the honeymoon phase. Lots of I love you from him, but I didn't find a single one from Jane. I felt some relief and then punched myself because I shouldn't feel that. Also, as Jane said, Birdbrain used to mock me. He called me fatty, pathetic loser, and little girl. Whenever he mentions me, Jane just said, I don't want to talk about my husband. In the most recent messages, I can tell whenever she didn't play along, Birdbrain got angry, and he told her he was on his way to my job to tell me everything while she begged him not to. Obviously, it was just a bluff. He doesn't know where I work. I looked for the messages at D-Day -1, and she didn't text him. No call records either. I snooped some more, and saw she was messaging a chat group with Flirty and 2 other girls that night. They are hilarious. Some of their comments made me chuckle. At D-Day +1, Jane was kicked out of the group. The next marriage counseling session was related to our past. Dolores asked how we met. It was at the university. We both were in the library doing homework. I had the last copy of a certain book. Jane asked me for it because she had to go home early, but I also had to go to my job, so we both needed it, and I told her we could photocopy it. We were in different careers, but we had the same teacher, so the assignment was the same. We chatted while we were in line. We hit it off, and I noticed how beautiful, intelligent, and kind she is. She just thought I was a good person. I lent her the book, and I got the photocopies. That way, she had to return the book to me, and we would chat again. I arrived late at work, but I felt it was totally worth it. We were friendly until I invited her out, but she turned me down. From there, I just greeted her in the hallways like a friend, but I didn't make a move on her. Suddenly, a week later, she invited me out. I babbled a yes, and we started dating. Next, Dolores asked what made us fall in love with each other. In my case, it was when I took Jane to eat Japanese food for the first time. She was clumsily trying to eat using the chopsticks until she had enough and said, "Forget this." And she pierced the meat and ate that way. I'd never heard her cursing before, so it made me laugh, and I said, "I love you," for the first time. Jane took longer, but she says it was on a trip we both took. She knew it was going to be our first time being intimate, but she had cold feet because she thought it would disappoint her father. Also, she was scared. She thought I would get mad and didn't tell me. At night she started crying and apologized to me. I told her I'm not mad, and if she didn't feel ready, I understand. I want her to trust me and feel comfortable with me. We cuddled and slept. She realized she felt secure with me, and that was the first time she told me she loved me. That session, I didn't get angry nor yell, and I had a nice time remembering good old times. I gave Jane her phone back. I told her I believe her. She's not in love with bird brain. She took her phone, smiled at me, and left without a word. She really is respecting my no contact request. The following Sunday, one of my cousins, let's call her Karen, threw a Halloween party at a bar, and she invited me. No disguises were required. So, I groomed and attended the party alone. Karen was one of the many people who received Jane's confession. She wrote her that she'll introduce me to a very attractive date, so she introduced me to a friend of hers, a woman in her late 20s, very attractive. Let's call her Princess. I greeted her, and then I saw it. She made a face I've seen several times, like if I had a giant booger dripping from my nose, a face of disgust and disappointment. I usually don't care about it because I had my beautiful wife. At that time, I was eager to know how much I've improved myself. Seems none since 18 years ago when I met Jane. She never gave me that look. She always looked happy to see me. That's why I fell fast and hard for her. Immediately, my defense mechanism acted, and I wanted to keep my distance from Princess, but Karen sat us in a booth, and I tried clumsily to chat, but she barely responded. She took her phone out and texted while I tried to maintain the conversation. Another guy came and told her, "Here you are. I didn't know you were coming. Want to dance?" She looked at me and said, "You don't mind, right?" I said, "Go and have fun." I saw them getting lost in the crowd while I kept thinking, so he didn't know she was here, but still he was looking for her. I bet she texted him, "Come and save me from this creep." I looked for Karen. It took me some minutes to find her. She was talking to Princess. Before they noticed me, I clearly heard her saying, "You said he's a catch." "He is," and Karen saw me. They immediately got quiet. I said I'm not feeling well, and I'm going home. I told Princess, "Sorry for not meeting your expectations." She shrugged. Karen had daggers in her eyes. When I got home, I thought she just was some materialistic witch, but she moved some dark old feelings from my youth. I couldn't stop them coming for me. I'll be alone from now on. Childless, wifeless. I am a very unattractive man. It will be very hard for me to build another relationship. I'm almost 45 and alone, a total loser. I had another anxiety attack. My therapist told me what to do. I got under my sheets covered from head to toes. I was crying, trembling, and sobbing. I don't know for how long until I woke up very early in the morning. My pillow was wet because of my tears and sweat. My head hurt, and I sat on my bed staring at the floor for almost an hour, lost in my dark thoughts until my alarm rang. It was time to get up, but I didn't. I felt out of energy. I didn't go to the gym. I sat on the shower floor to sob, and I went to work. One of my close colleagues, the same guy who lent me his car, noticed I was very quiet and slow. He told me I looked sad, and I finally understood depression has kicked in. The following day, I received some texts from Karen apologizing for her friend. I ignored it and tried to go to the gym, but I felt like my energy was cut in half or less. I was tired very quickly. I didn't complete my session and went home. The following Tuesday, I took my godchildren trick-or-treating with my sister-in-law. In Mexico, we do this on November 1st and 2nd. I cheered up a bit, but when I got home, I felt down again. The third and final session was 3 days after Karen's party. I arrived and tried to put on a good face, but I failed. It took Jane a few minutes to notice I was not the same. She asked me if I was okay. I faked a smile and said I'm fine, but she stared at me and I couldn't meet her eyes. She asked Dolores if we could reschedule because I was not well. I insisted I was fine, but Jane said, "That's a lie. I can tell you're not fine." Dolores asked me what I was feeling. I didn't want to look weak in front of Jane, but then she said, "He's sad." I looked at her surprised. She sat next to me and asked, "What's wrong?" She grabbed my hand, and this time I didn't reject her. I just saw her big, beautiful brown eyes scanning my soul. I'm ashamed to admit I started to sob. I put my elbows on my knees and teared up a bit. Jane caressed my back, and I regained some composure. My nose was running, and my eyes were red. I went to the restroom and wet my face. When I returned and sat next to Jane, I saw she had tears on her face, and Dolores asked me the reason for my sadness. Jane said with a trembling voice it was her fault. I agreed to be honest, and told her it was not because of her. My insecurities were giving me a rough time. Jane stopped crying and grabbed my face with both of her hands, placing it in front of hers, nose to nose. She said, "Original poster, OP. I really hate when you say you are unattractive." Yeah, I've whined to her about this in the past, especially when I felt I was losing her. Then she started listing the things she likes about me. She also added, "When I undressed you at the hospital and you were only in your underwear, the nurses and I thought, hubba hubba." That's the best translation I could find. That made me chuckle, and I did feel better. I can see you are in better shape than I remember. I did lose another 4 kilograms when all this drama started, but also I lost some muscle due to lack of sleep and appetite. I glanced at Dolores. She was silent the whole time, staring at us. She said, "You both can still work on a new marriage. Your previous marriage is done, but a new concept could work for both of you. That is my advice if you want to take it." Jane loved the idea. I said I'm not sure about that, and I'll discuss it with my lawyer and my therapist. The rest of the session, we talked about our lives so far individually. I didn't know Jane got another job in a different company doing the same thing she did in the previous one, and she's still in therapy. I mentioned I'm learning to cook and trying to focus on my mental health. She asked us the good points and bad points of being separated. I mentioned I am busier, and it helps me to move on. I didn't mention sometimes I miss my wife, but Jane did. She said she hates being alone and not in her house with her husband, whom she loves dearly, and she squeezed my hand. I hadn't noticed we were sitting next to each other, and she was still holding my hand. I'm sorry to admit, in that moment of darkness, her warm touch felt like a pure ray of light. The session was over. Dolores signed the documents given by our attorneys. We walked together, and I took her to her car, still unsure about my feelings for her. She asked me if the no contact NC request was over. I told her, I guess. Then she asked me if we could have a date for my birthday, mid-November. When she saw my worried face, she hurried to say it was only dinner. She just wanted us to chat like the good old times. I agreed but asked for no kisses and no excessive touching. We agreed to meet 2 weeks later, one day before my birthday. Meanwhile, I asked for NC again. Update 7. Hello, champions. I am back with the final update. I appreciate everyone here. It is because of you that today I have high hopes for my future. Thanks to all of you anonymous strangers who dedicate time to all the hurt souls and lead them to heal. Being part of this kind of club is unfortunate, but in our shared pain, we find truly kind individuals who offer a helping hand simply because they have encountered the same pain. Thank you very much. After meeting Jane and scheduling a date for our date, I was very confused about my feelings. I had to read my own testimony to remind myself of what she did to me, but it felt as if a different person wrote it. I found myself thinking that her cheating was not so bad, and that she was remorseful. I watched her video with bird brain again. I wanted to get angry, but I just felt empty. I turned to some of you for advice through direct messages and learned that there is something called the reconciliation fog. This phenomenon leads us to perform the pick-me dance, to forgive cheaters and excuse their actions, as in my case. I was deep in this fog due to my depression and low self-esteem. Fortunately, I had 2 weeks before my date with Jane. First, I had a meeting with my attorney. He said it was a bad idea to meet without both attorneys present. I told him it was important to me, as it was going to be my litmus test. He asked, "What if she's recording you and presents it as evidence of reconciliation?" I told him I was still not sure what I wanted to do. That's why I needed to see what happens. He shrugged and said, "You won't be the first one having cold feet, but if you still want to divorce, You need to avoid any reconciliation topics and show no signs of affection. I told him I understood. In the first week, I had appointments with my therapist and my psychiatrist. My therapist suggested adopting a pet to help relieve my depression. I loved the idea because animals tend to like me for some reason. So I went to a shelter and adopted a dog. She is so joyful and intelligent. Her name is Samantha. She is a mixed breed, medium-sized. I went nuts buying things for her. Toys, a leash, a collar with her name, a nice warm bed. She did help me cheer up. My godchildren love her. My psychiatrist doubled my dose of antidepressants and prescribed medication to ease compulsive thoughts. My parents, psychiatrist, and therapist gave me the same advice. In short, do what will make you happy. But I didn't know what would make me happy in the end. I needed something or someone to snap me back to reality. It came from the last person I would think of. I hadn't attended my last 3 kickboxing classes since Karen's Halloween party. My coach, Abraham, male 40-ish, was upset with me. He met me in the showers to scold me, but saw I was down and asked, "Is everything all right?" I said, "Not really." I started telling him about my depression. He has a son currently dealing with the same, and suggested we meet for some beers. So, after class, we went to a bar close to the gym, and I told him all about Jane and Birdbrain. He was absolutely disgusted, and told me essentially everything all of you champions have. I spoke about my feelings, and he shut me down, saying, "Speak your mind." I was unsure what to say, and he repeated, "What is on your mind? I don't care about feelings. Tell me what you want." I opened my mouth as if I were a fish out of water, but didn't answer. He seemed exasperated with me and added, "You really need to man up." He told me to come earlier to the gym the following day. He paid for the drinks and told me, "You're going to be reborn." The next day, I arrived an hour earlier. Abraham was expecting me. He gave me sparring gear and told me to meet him in the ring. I had never sparred before. I sometimes practiced using a sandbag, but that was it. Abraham told me to punch him. I threw a punch, and he almost laughed at me, saying, "Is this all you've got?" I felt embarrassed, as there were some other students watching us, and I was the oldest person there. I tried again, and Abraham easily blocked me and pushed me back. I tripped and fell on my behinds, and he said, "Your determination is weak." He helped me stand up and repeated, "Man up." I heard someone chuckling, and I felt angry. I took it more seriously and tried again and again, but I wasn't able to hit Abraham even once, knowing he was going easy on me. I was tired, and he told me to come the following day to repeat, adding, "You're not giving your all. Show yourself what you can do." That comment stuck in my mind all day. During the following session, Abraham asked a boy to record the sparring using my phone. Once more, I didn't connect a single hit. Finally, we watched the video while he gave me his opinion. My movements were clumsy, slow, and weak. I could protect myself from some of his blows, but my reactions looked like I was panicking. Watching myself made me feel embarrassed. Abraham told me to man up and do whatever it takes to punch him at least once. I admitted to myself that I wasn't putting enough effort into kickboxing. I started watching videos online and decided to add an extra hour to my training. At night, I watched the sparring video, studying my movements and thinking about what I should do differently. I cleared my study to make space for shadow sparring. I was so obsessed with showing Abraham my determination that I completely forgot about my problems and my date with Jane. By the 5th session, I was able to predict some of his movements, but I was still slow. I noticed the number of people watching was increasing. Later, someone told me there was a bet going on. On the 7th day, the miracle happened. I saw his fist moving towards my chest, and I knew what to do. In just 1 second, my body reacted with precision and speed. I punched him in his ribs. I was very pleased, but then I saw something black, and the next thing I noticed was my face touching the floor, and Abraham shouting, "Give him some room." I turned over and saw that everyone was in the ring, and Abraham kneeled next to me, telling me not to move. Someone came with a first aid kit. My nose was bleeding, I was dizzy, and I asked, "What happened?" Everyone started talking at the same time, excited and joyful. Abraham was apologetic and told me, "You did it, man. Sorry. It was a reflex." The kid who usually records us showed me the moment I punched him. Abraham reacted and punched me back in the face, and I passed out for about 5 seconds. It took me 1 week to connect a single punch on him. I joined the kids and shouted, "Hell yeah!" I was euphoric. Someone helped me stand up while I felt some pats on my back. I was smiling, and Abraham asked, "I'll repeat my question. What do you want?" I yelled, "I want to be stronger. I want to be the best version of myself." "What about your wife?" I made an angry face. "She betrayed me. She doesn't deserve me." He smiled and raised my hand as if I had won the match. We all yelled. I know it was just a punch. I finally connected. But Abraham knew I needed this victory more than any therapy, medication, or advice, because since then, my confusion, sadness, and doubts all disappeared. Welcome to the last stage of acceptance. In the following days, I put much more effort into my training and made a series of decisions the old me would think more than once about or ask for Jane's opinion. I'll change my look, my car, and I'll do things I didn't do before because of fear, like learning to dance and to play a musical instrument. And I'll get my first tattoo. Jane texted me the day before our date. I told her the place and time, and she added, "Don't be late." I felt much more confident about myself. We met at her favorite restaurant at lunchtime. She looked breathtaking as always. I was dressed quite plainly, a jacket, a t-shirt, jeans, and hikers. I think she felt very confident about herself. I just smirked and started recording with my phone. We were amicable. My emotions were in check. I didn't feel any anger or rage like the last time we met. It felt like speaking to an old friend, and everything was purely platonic, at least from my side. She asked about my sadness, and I told her I felt much better now, which surprised her. She asked what triggered my insecurities, and I told her about all the princess drama. She was as angry as my cousin Karen had been. She mentioned she would never be ready to see me with another partner. I told her, I'm ending a messy relationship with my crazy wife, referring to her in the third person and in the past. She caught what I meant, a very smart idea from one of you champions. Then she told me, she sounds like a slut. You should get away from her. We laughed. How I missed these conversations with her. Before Birdbrain, we could chat for hours. Then she told me one of my co-workers contacted her and asked her out. I laughed. I've seen that weasel secretly staring at attractive women or girls. I wouldn't be surprised if he had stared at Jane. She turned him down, and he got mad. I asked about Flirty. Do you know what her problem with me is? She said she didn't know, but her theory is that Flirty dislikes my ethnicity and can't stand that I have better education and salary than hers. I'm at least 2 levels above her. Also, Jane discovered Flirty is dating seriously 2 guys, whatever that means to her. We discussed the individual we refer to as Birdbrain. He contacted Jane from a different number, attempting to persuade her to elope with him. She insisted she did not speak, she merely listened, and eventually ended the call. He has relocated to another state. I expressed some harsh opinions about him. She was astonished by his deceitfulness and wholeheartedly concurred with my assessment that he is a contemptible individual. She inquired about the occasion when he and I first met, a detail she discovered in my post. I explained to her that witnessing his remorseful demeanor instilled in me a sense of confidence. Additionally, my anger made it effortless for me to intimidate him. She implored me to reenact the encounter, and I complied. I recounted to her, to the best of my memory, what I said, and the manner in which I said it. Her eyes widened in astonishment, and she moistened her lips in excitement. She mentioned experiencing goosebumps, and admitted she had never seen me display such aggression before. She also reiterated her increased fondness for me. Subsequently, she flirted with me, and suggested if I was interested in becoming intimate, using our private euphemism, stuffing the muffin for the act. This was the moment I had been anticipating. Jane leaned in to kiss me. I had no time to contemplate, but the familiar feelings of anger and resentment surged within me. Instinctively, I recoiled, distancing my face from hers. Displaying a stern expression, I firmly stated no, halting her in her tracks. She apologized profusely. Regaining my composure, I suggested we depart as it was getting late, and I needed to walk Sammy. I settled the bill for our meal. She had not brought her car and requested a ride to my place, presumably convinced we would spend the night together. Despite my hesitations, I decided to go along with it, if only to assert no once more. Upon arriving at my apartment, the sounds of Samantha whining and scratching at the door greeted us. Before entering, Jane adopted a serious demeanor and asked, "OP, will you ever forgive your wife?" "I already have," I responded. "Then why not reconcile with her?" she pressed. "Because I cannot erase the memory of her actions. Nor can I ever trust her again, I explained. She appeared saddened by this, but then inquired, "What about me? Would you consider me as an alternative?" With a smile, I responded, "What are you implying? We're just friends." She seemed taken aback by my friend-zoning remark and lightly punched me on the shoulder in jest. Contrary to my expectations, she didn't appear more offended, but rather, her eyes sparkled with joy, and she wore a broad smile, saying, "You finally touched me." This took me by surprise. I hadn't initiated physical contact with her since the discovery day. She moved closer, asking for a hug, which I granted. She embraced me tightly, feeling so familiar in my arms, her fragrance and the sensation of her hair against my face bringing back memories. She pleaded for us to reconcile, but I firmly stated, "No, Jane, we are proceeding with the divorce." She seemed to think I was jesting at first, but the reality soon set in, and she didn't take it well. Convinced we would mend our relationship, she caused a commotion outside my apartment. I attempted to soothe her as she clung to me, imploring and professing her transformation, promising happiness and willingness to do anything for me. Her tears began to flow. Despite feeling sympathy for her, my feelings had changed. The mistake she made led me to fall out of love. Noticing a curious neighbor, I ushered Jane inside. Sammy, curious about the newcomer, greeted her. Lacking tea, I warmed some soy milk to help calm Jane as she continued to sob and pet Sammy. Seated across from her, the warm beverage seemed to soothe her. "Do you still harbor love for me?" she inquired. "Only as the dear friend you've been to me over the years, not as a romantic partner," I clarified. Her frustration was evident as she demanded to know why. I explained, "I've changed, Jane. I've moved past our marriage." She accused me of cruelty, but I maintained that I was being realistic. My words in the marital counseling session reflected my genuine feelings. I could never trust her again. The memory of her betrayal on the discovery day remains vivid. In her anger, she berated herself and cursed Birdbrain, acknowledging her lack of appreciation for what she had until it was lost. She proposed various solutions, such as a trial reconciliation, an open marriage on my terms, or even a friends with benefits arrangement. I dismissed these ideas as unrealistic. When asked what I desired from her, I expressed my wish for her happiness with whomever she chooses, as I intended to find my own happiness independently. She inquired about the presence of another woman in my life, to which I replied, "Not yet, but perhaps in the future." Overcome with emotion, she covered her face with her hands. Sammy, sensing her distress, offered comfort with a gentle paw on her leg. Realizing it was time for Sammy's walk, we headed out around 10 p.m., with Jane accompanying me. She was noticeably quieter, walking beside me. At the dog park, as Sammy enjoyed her freedom, Jane finally spoke, expressing her fear of never finding love again. I reassured her, "You will. There are plenty of opportunities out there." She mentioned that 2 married co-workers had asked her out at her new job, which she interpreted as innocuous invitations from a human resources perspective, despite their obvious interest in her. To ward off unwanted attention, she displayed a photograph of us together. I found humor in her strategy, but she remained serious, contemplating a future potentially filled with undesirable suitors and the loss of true love, compounded by her inability to have children. She questioned my thoughts on remarriage, to which I expressed my doubts about the institution, without disclosing my desire for children. I forwarded the audio recording to my lawyer, and after a few days, he informed me that he didn't find anything indicative of reconciliation within the conversation, merely inconsequential banter that would be deemed irrelevant if presented as evidence. Moreover, he noted it was a wise decision to refer to Jane in the third person, as it created an impression that I wasn't directly engaging with her. On my birthday, the majority of my extended family reached out, either through text messages or phone calls, to check in on me. I spent the day at my parents' home, where my brother and his wife were already present. Unexpectedly, Jane arrived accompanied by my in-laws. The day unfolded pleasantly, filled with games, delicious food, and a sumptuous cake prepared by my mother, whom I consider the finest cook. The atmosphere was devoid of any drama, and even my mother-in-law, who was having a coherent day, seemed content watching the twins play, despite occasionally forgetting their relationship to her. It truly was a splendid day, and as we cut the cake, I acknowledged that I had everything I desired. My godchildren remained a significant part of my life. I had forgiven Jane, and I was nearly free from depression. Since then, several noteworthy events have transpired. In mid-December, I went on a date with a single mother who attempted to persuade me to adopt her rather troublesome child. A story I would gladly share should I find an appropriate platform for recounting such disastrous dating experiences. One of my tenants proposed a sugar daddy arrangement, which I declined. I also acquired my first tattoo, an Aztec eagle warrior on my shoulder, symbolizing pride in my heritage and ethnicity. The Aztec eagle warriors, renowned for donning helmets shaped like the heads of royal eagles, a symbol of freedom, honesty, and strength in my country, resonate with my personal values. I am a hard-working and respectable individual, and if anyone takes issue with my appearance, I simply disregard their opinions and continue being true to myself. By the end of December, Jane resigned from her job due to harassment from a prominent coworker, compounded by the Human Resources Department's gaslighting. Leaving the company was her most prudent course of action. I spent Christmas with the twins and her family, noting that while Jane is coming to terms with the end of our relationship, her friendliness towards me borders on irritating. In January, I created a Tinder profile with assistance from one of my kickboxing acquaintances. Despite receiving only a few likes, I initiated contact with a junior high school teacher. She is clever and humorous, and we began dating. However, I am aware that our relationship is unlikely to endure. Our incompatibilities stem from her disinterest in having children, her gaming hobby, which I view as a frivolous pastime, and her objections to my kickboxing practice, which she deems overly violent. As you are aware, my divorce was finalized on February 17th. Jane sent me a message stating, "I know this is not the end for us." Shortly thereafter, my sister-in-law informed me that Jane has entered a depressive phase. She implored me to speak with Jane, who, according to her, would heed my advice. Jane has ceased working, her health has visibly declined, and she spends most of her days asleep, initially refusing therapy until I intervened. She expressed a desire for more frequent contact, but I explained that this very expectation is contributing to her depression. It is essential for her to move on and release me from her life. In conclusion, I feel that I am now on the correct path. I am dedicating myself to my studies in pursuit of a promotion that will enable me to travel. My gym routine continues to go well. Although I haven't sparred with Abraham again, other members often seek my assistance. Ultimately, I have achieved my goal of maintaining an amicable relationship with my ex-wife without severing ties with my in-laws, whom I still regard as family. My godchildren's affection is a source of immense joy for me, and the thought of losing them was unbearable. They were the catalyst for my journey through the stages of grief, ultimately leading me to move beyond my feelings for Jane. In my culture, godparents assume a parental role in the event of the biological parent's incapacity, underscoring the importance of this bond. To those grieving the loss of a marriage, I urge you not to succumb to bitterness. There is light at the end of the tunnel, though reaching it requires time and personal effort. The pain may not subside today or tomorrow, but eventually you will overcome this ordeal. I wish you all the best on your journey. Surprise! A new update 1 year later. Hello, champions! Today, February 17th, marks a year since my marriage with Jane ended. I've received several requests for an update. I feel I owe that to all of you who helped me during the darkest period of my life. Since early 2023, guys at the gym started calling me abuelo, grandpa, because, literally, I'm the oldest person practicing kickboxing there. My hair is completely black, but I've noticed I have some gray hair here and there. I don't mind the nickname because it means I'm one of the guys. Some of them have approached me for old man's advice, such as how to manage taxes, how to wear a tie, and help to polish their resumes for a good job hunt. I follow my training and diet almost religiously. My weight may not have decreased, but my body fat did. I'm around 20% fat, a huge accomplishment for me. Not everything has been peaches and cream. I got injured at the gym. I was training at the same pace as the younger ones, but my body couldn't keep up. I got a muscle tear in my shoulder that took several months to heal. Also, during sparring, I was COID badly. Abraham has asked me to slow down and practice something less stressful for my body, like yoga or Aikido, so I switched to the second option. There, I've found people about my age, but I'm thinner and more muscular. I'm sticking to martial arts. All my living expenses are covered by the rental of my apartment, so most of my salary is saved since Samantha, my dog, and I live a very frugal life. The promotion I mentioned previously was given to another colleague. He does deserve it. There will be another opportunity in the future. It requires me to improve my English skills and study for a second master's degree. I did take dancing lessons. At the beginning, I was very stiff, but I've been improving slowly. Also, I hired a music teacher to learn to play the keyboard. I keep myself busy. As for dating, some guy from the gym helped me create a Tinder profile, but none of the ladies there caught my interest. Most of them are looking for hookups, a sugar daddy, or just somebody to be unfaithful with, while I'm looking for a more mature relationship. The first relationship I had after my divorce was with a real nutcase. First, we need to talk about my mom's sister. She's truly a kind soul, always trying to help. However, sometimes her help causes some trouble since she tends to misunderstand or make wrong assumptions. Let's call her Aunt Angie. In December 2022, Angie called me to see if I was free for a blind date. Since she's one of my favorite aunts, I accepted. She told me the girl was the daughter of her neighbor. I wanted more details, but she told me I would have to find out at the date. Aunt Angie texted me the place and date the following day. We met at lunchtime at a familiar restaurant. I know more romantic places to eat and have a nice time, but the lady wanted to eat there. I arrived on time. I'm always very punctual, but she came almost half an hour late with her kid, a chubby 10-year-old boy glued to his cell phone. Let's call them Jessica and Kevin. I didn't mind, but I thought it was weird to bring your child to a blind date. About Jessica, she's about 35, chubby and pretty, with a big cleavage and very high heels. She was wearing a lot of makeup and huge eyelashes, which I really dislike. Those remind me of women who go heavy on the silicone and their body looks deformed instead of aesthetic. I thought, let's give it a shot. She was all smiles and greeted me with a kiss on my cheek. Kevin and I shared a handshake. He looked at me for a second and then returned to his loud game. I have no idea what he was playing. I just heard gunshots, screams, and explosions. After some pleasantries, I noticed Jessica was focused on my assets. She asked me about my job, my car, and also my salary. She knew I own an apartment, thanks to Aunt Angie. I answered with general responses, which she didn't like. She wanted exact numbers. I told her I don't like discussing such matters, and she smiled. But something changed in her mood. She was annoyed. Then I asked about her life. She told me she wouldn't tell me about her income, which I hadn't asked. She is a transcriptionist. She receives voice recordings and transcribes them into written reports. She can do it from home and take care of Kevin. She looked at her boy and smiled while she petted his hair. Kevin didn't notice the gesture. He was still playing with his mouth opened. I asked what he was playing, and Jessica answered for him. The kid seemed completely oblivious to his surroundings. We ordered food. I was starving since I only had a sandwich and a protein shake for breakfast. Kevin made a little tantrum because there wasn't his favorite burger on the menu. I told him there are other delicious hamburgers he can try. He grabbed his paper napkin and threw it at me. I said, "That wasn't a nice thing to do." Jessica told me to never speak to her kid like that. She smooched the boy's cheek and promised he would like the new burger. The kid, with tears in his eyes, nodded and returned to his game. The rest of the date was not so bad, fortunately. Kevin's phone battery died, so we had some peace. Until the kid got bored and demanded his mom's attention. I tried to grab his attention, but he ignored me. Jessica said that's because I'm a stranger, and she taught him to ignore strangers. Fair enough. We dated 2 more times, and on both occasions, she brought Kevin with her. On the second date, I suggested going to a park, and I bought a soccer ball for Kevin in hopes he would like to play something other than video games, but he wouldn't. Kevin didn't pay any attention to my gift. On the third date, I bought him a kite, which again he ignored, and he was especially annoying, throwing tantrums for the most idiotic reasons. I may have made a face of exasperation, and Jessica got mad. I told her I would like to have a date only with her, suggesting we go to a bar or another place meant for adults. The third date was at a McDonald's. Jessica made a comment that I only wanted to sleep with her. I asked, "Is that the reason you bring your son with you?" She actually nodded and said she doesn't trust men, and gave a speech about how strong she is because men can't control her. This is when Jessica showed her true colors. She asked again how much I earn. Before I could repeat my answer, she told me that if I wanted a relationship with her, I would have to meet her expectations, and one obligatory thing is that I must give her my complete salary so she could manage it. Yes, you read that right. I raised my eyebrows and thought, nice meeting you, I'm out of here. But at that moment, our order was ready. Don't judge me. It had been months since I had eaten a hamburger. So, I stayed and asked, what are your expectations? I don't know if wolves smile, but I bet Jessica smiled like one. She started listing all she wants. For example, I can keep my car, but I must buy her a new, large one. About my car, I have a thing for small cars. Instead of buying a new one, I chose to repair mine, and it works perfectly. But Jessica thinks small cars are embarrassing. She declared she's not a maid, so all household chores, including cooking, would be my responsibility. She wanted to see my apartment to decide whether to move there or to a bigger place if she dislikes it. I must pay for her and her friends' outings. I asked how, since she wanted to keep all my salary. She didn't have an answer, but she did mention that the salary arrangement is for her to recognize me as a man. That's what her father, now divorced from her cheating mother, used to do. The most ridiculous requirement was that I must accept she is a free woman, meaning she can and will have male friends, and I must be loyal to her. Also, Kevin's father is not out of the picture. He travels a lot and isn't usually around, but when he is in the city, either she may ask me to sleep in a hotel, or she may not come home. To all her expectations, I responded with, I see, or I understand, never with an affirmative answer. You might think I was angry, but I was amused. I thought these entitled narcissistic women were an exaggeration. Boy, they are real. Besides, I thought it would make a laughable story for my buddies at the gym. She asked me if I had any questions. I did. I wanted to know what she would bring to the relationship. According to her, I must give her all my money and my loyalty and turn a blind eye when she's cheating. She repeated she's a free woman, and I said, and I am not stupid. I'm out of here. I stood up, and she may have realized she was losing a good opportunity and desperately told me to sit and discuss it with her. She wanted to know what I was expecting from her. I repeated my question, what would you bring to the relationship? She said with a smile, you will have a high-value woman. I scoffed and said, is that it? That's just extra baggage in my life. I turned around and she yelled at me, calling me an ugly nobody, that I don't deserve her. I told her, you are right, I deserve better. All people at the place were watching us. I said, show's over, folks, and left. When I arrived home, Jessica was calling me and I blocked her. Later that same evening, Aunt Angie called me, very concerned because her friend, Jessica's mom, had called her, demanding to know where I live. I invited her to have dinner and chat, and she immediately said yes. She's usually alone. Her husband arrives late at night, and her 2 boys left the nest about 10 years ago. So we met at a cafe close to her house, and I told her about my last date with Jessica, and she understood why her friend was so mad. She told me about the time when she spoke with Jessica's mom about having a single, beautiful daughter with a kid. She immediately thought of me, divorcing Jane and wanting to have kids, so they arranged the blind date. Angie mentioned to her friend that I am a feminist, old school feminism. In her case, this means I respect women. But for Jessica and her mom, this means I am a pushover, modern feminism. That was the reason for her entitlement. Aunt Angie told me about her friend's affair, which she denies, but everybody in the building knows that's the reason for her divorce. Angie's hairdresser saw her making out with another man. Also, she told me Kevin's father is a truck driver, but Jessica always says he's traveling because of business. I thought that would be the end of it, but they kept pestering Aunt Angie. I asked her if she needed me to call the police, but she said no, unless they continued to annoy her. I decided to unblock Jessica and called her. She was surprised. Then she fake cried, saying she missed me, she was sorry for what she had said, and also that Kevin asks about me every day. She told me she just wanted to see me once, and that's all she asked. I said I would see her if she promised to stop harassing my aunt. She promised. We 3 met at a park. Jessica hugged me and fake cried again. It's unbelievable how quickly she can turn the tears on and off. Kevin, as always, was glued to his phone and ignoring me. But Jessica assured me he asked for me every day. He loves me. And finally, she asked if I would consider becoming his dad. I squatted in front of Kevin and gently pushed down his phone, and he looked at me. I smiled and asked, "Hi, Kevin. Do you know who I am?" The kid turned his head to his mom, who was mouthing my name, but he didn't understand. He looked at me again and shrugged his shoulders. I moved his hair aside and let him continue playing. Jessica said, It's because he calls you another name. I turned and said, As you promised, stop pestering my aunt or we'll call the cops. She tried to stop me, followed me, and turned on the tears again, calling me a heartless person. Then she asked if, at the very least, I could buy Kevin a Christmas present, like a sayonara gift. I told her I already gave him a soccer ball and a kite, but she said he wants a video game. By then, we had arrived at my car. I said, Ask his father? Why don't you sue him for child support? And that really was the last time I've seen her. Aunt Angie says she hasn't seen them again. My next relationship was with a match on Tinder. Guys at the gym helped me with the pictures. I'm a 5, but they made me look like a 7 with no filters. I was happy with the result. The match was a teacher, very pretty and independent, with no kids and single. Let's call her Erica, F32. When I met her, I could see she was overweight, but we had great chemistry. She's witty and very intelligent. We could talk for hours. She was as welcome at my home as I was at hers. We had very passionate nights. She told me I inspired her to return to the gym. This is the time when I had a muscle tear and had to slow down with the workouts, so we exercised together. In the end, she was very sore, so she skipped 2 days. Then she returned and felt sore again. This time, she skipped a week. She came back for 3 days, and then suddenly had a lot of excuses to avoid the gym. So, I stopped asking. Some weeks later, I was knocked out badly during sparring. At first, I was disoriented. Then, for the following days, I was dizzy and had sudden nausea. Erica tried to stop me from practicing martial arts, saying, They are too violent. She told me she wouldn't return to the gym because she was worried about me getting hurt again. Why did we break up? There are 2 main reasons. The first one is that she developed a crush on a colleague and acted on it. The second is the main reason and my excuse to end the relationship. But first, you must know that she's a gamer. I don't have a problem with that, but she often neglected her responsibilities to play video games, and she played a lot of games. That's when the problem started. She always had time to play, but never to exercise or do her job. Once, we didn't sleep at all one night because she was late completing a task that was due the following day, and I helped her. This was getting on my nerves. About a month later, I met her goofy friends at a bar, and we had some drinks. They weren't easy on the alcohol, and made fun of me because I only drank a couple of beers. That's because I had to drive, and I don't drink a lot due to my training. These gatherings occurred every 2 weeks. Once, they mentioned a new colleague who arrived at the school a couple of weeks after Erica and I met. Let's call him Ivan. Erica, with sparkling eyes, mentioned that Ivan exercises a lot and is handsome. This was my first red flag. She didn't hold back. I didn't want to sound paranoid, so I let it slide, but from there, I paid close attention to her behavior. The next red flag, the last time we met, she suggested I could stay in since it seemed like I wasn't having a good time with her friends. I said that was nonsense and invited myself in. When we arrived, I noticed a new guy sitting with her friends. It was Ivan, M30. Erica acted surprised. I chatted with him. He's a cool guy and mentioned he's in a relationship. We both talked about the gym, exercising, and shared some tips. Erica inserted herself into the conversation to tell him we both exercise a lot. It had been about 3 months since she stopped going to the gym. I just nodded. I didn't want to make her look bad in front of her friends. From there, our intimacy slowed down. The following week, Ivan texted me. I hadn't given him my number. He got it from Erica. I asked if they both chat a lot, and he told me it's mostly her texting him. How interesting. He mentioned he doesn't like chatting with female colleagues, since his girlfriend is very insecure. That same day, I confronted Erica at her home about our lack of intimacy and asked if she wanted to end things. She told me she was sorry, that she didn't want us to break up, and we became intimate right there. Afterwards, I asked if she had a crush on Ivan. She laughed and said she considers him like a little brother. I didn't buy it. On our last day together, I had to attend a meeting out of the city. According to my calculations, I'd arrive home around midnight. I asked Erica to walk Sammy at 10 p.m. She agreed. I pleaded with her not to play video games because she might forget. She promised she wouldn't play that night. During the day, Ivan texted me, asking if I would be going to the next meeting because Erica always insisted on him going. The first day when she acted surprised, she had invited him. Also, she flirts a lot with him. I planned to confront her about this. I arrived home close to midnight, and Sammy was hiding under the table. That was very strange for her. Then, Erica told me she had to discipline her because she urinated inside the house. I argued that my dog has never done that before and demanded an explanation. Then she lied again, telling me she was watching a movie, and out of nowhere, Sammy urinated. I went to the living room where she had connected her devices to my TV. One of them was warm, meaning she had played. I spoke calmly. "You forgot to take Sammy out, right? Because you were playing, am I wrong?" She got defensive and started raising her voice, and so did I. I was angry she hurt my pet when she was in the wrong. She yelled that I care more for a stupid dog than her feelings, and then said very hurtful things, like I'm her worst lover, I have never satisfied her, and that she's sure I'm going to die alone. That would have crushed the old me. I stopped arguing with her. What's the point when she's defending her wrongdoing? And watched her ranting. She got angrier and angrier when I started ignoring her. At last, she finally stopped. I said, "Are you done? This is over." One more thing I forgot to add to the list of her delightful qualities is that she's very prideful. She took out her phone and contacted an Uber. Meanwhile, I was trying to convince Sammy to leave her hiding spot. She refused. When the Uber arrived, she said, "Make sure to send me my stuff." After she left, Sammy finally came out from under the table. I had forgotten to confront her about her lies. The next day, I bought a big box and put all her stuff in there. Clothes, shoes, toiletries, video games, 2 consoles, even food she stored in my refrigerator that I don't eat. I went to her apartment, put the box in front of the door, rang the bell, and when she saw me, I said, "Here are your things. Let me know if I missed something," and walked away. I heard her say, "Wait." I raised my hand and said, "You're welcome," and left. She tried to contact me, but I am no longer interested, so I blocked her. The same day, Ivan texted me, saying he's sorry Erica and I broke up. I thanked him and asked how he knew. Erica had told him. A month later, she came to my home all apologetic. I found out later that she had tried to kiss Ivan, but he refused and reported her to HR. Ivan told me himself, "We're good buddies now." But by then, by pure coincidence, I was with my next relationship. When Jane and I made the commitment to live a healthier life, the first step was to contact a nutritionist. Her name is Mayra. We scheduled a monthly appointment. As our results started showing and improving, the appointments changed to every 2 months, then every 3 months, and now we have them every 6 months as a follow-up. The last 2 sessions, I went alone. Mayra asked me why Jane was not with me, and I told her we had divorced. Then we chatted for the rest of the session. She told me Jane and I were her most successful case, and she loves to brag to other patients about us. She said she remembers when I arrived, all clumsy, chubby, and shy, and now I'm more extroverted and with a well-worked body. She thought that was endearing, so she hinted at the possibility of a relationship with her. She told me if I'm interested, she needs a +1 for her son's wedding. I had to reject her because I was dating Erica. But a month later, after things ended with Erica, I texted Mayra. We met for coffee. I asked if I could still be her +1. She said yes. She asked about the reason for my change of mind. I told her about Erica and what she did to my pet. She got angry because she loves dogs. I asked if she was married, and it turned out she's divorced. She and her husband ended their marriage when her son was a kid. She had had boyfriends over the years until the last guy got tired a couple of months ago because she doesn't want to get married again. I learned she is a year older than me, but she looks like she's in her 30s, with a beautiful face, thin body, and great sense of humor. I asked if it's okay since I'm her patient, so it would be unethical. She told me I could fire her as my nutritionist. At the end of the date, I said, "I guess I will have to find a new nutritionist." And she kissed me. She's not looking for anything serious. She just wants to have fun. I asked how many guys she's having fun with. She looked offended. She told me I am the only one. When she knew I had divorced, she thought it was perfect timing because that was the same day she decided to date again. She thinks God put me in her path for some reason. I agreed. Finally, I asked if she wants us to be exclusive, and she said it's not necessary. She sees me as her friend with benefits. So we started going out, have dates, and lots of sex. She loves my tattoo. At her son's wedding, the dancing lessons were very useful. Her son was very cordial to me, but I could see a small, "you don't deserve my mom" glimpse in his eyes. When Erica came to apologize, Mara was inside my home. She had slept with me and was wearing one of my shirts. I was wearing sandals, shorts, and a t-shirt. Mara came to the door when I was listening to Erica's excuses. Mara was purring and said to me, "Here's your coffee, stud." She gave me a cup of coffee and slapped my behind. Then she looked at Erica and added, "I'm sorry. I didn't know we have company." She hugged me from behind and put her chin on my shoulder and one of her pedicured feet on my knee. Erica left with tears in her eyes. I told Mara, "That was mean." She said, "She's the one who hurt Sammy, right?" I asked, "How do you know?" Then I noticed Sammy was hiding under the table again. Okay, she may deserve it. The following week, I texted Ivan, and he mentioned Erica looks miserable. In the midst of September, on a Saturday around 8 p.m., I was relaxing at home studying when suddenly I heard Jane knocking on my door. I was very concerned. My first thought was that something had happened to my mother-in-law or one of the twins. When I opened the door, she was in tears, hugging me and saying, "I didn't speak to him, I swear." She buried her face in my chest when I heard, "Babe, please talk to me." Standing in front of me was Birdbrain, wearing a sleeveless t-shirt. Jane hid behind me and shouted at him, "Leave me alone." At that moment, Samantha started to bark, which made Birdbrain stop approaching. My anger kicked in and I yelled, "You heard her, asshole! F off!" Birdbrain ignored me and shouted at Jane, "Babe, come with me, let's talk." I stepped sideways and blocked his view. He looked at me and said, "Come on, man! You two are divorced, right? She is no longer your concern." He was right, but I guess I hate Birdbrain more than I am mad at Jane. I told her, "Go into my house and call emergency services." She obeyed. When the door closed, Birdbrain didn't say a word. He just stared at me with either anger or hate. I started walking towards him, my fists clenched. He turned around and ran away. He got into a car that I hadn't noticed. The driver gestured rudely at me and they left. Then I noticed Jane's car was parked incorrectly and still had the lights on. I entered my home and she hugged me again. She was a bit incoherent and shaking. She apologized, saying, "I'm sorry, I brought him here. I came because I don't want him to know where I live. I swear I didn't speak to him." I gave her a hot beverage to calm her down. When the police arrived, about 2 hours later, she filed a report and was more in control of herself. According to Jane, Birdbrain had been waiting for her outside her gym. When she saw him, she ran to her car and didn't know what to do. She looked for a police officer or a patrol, but couldn't find any. Finally, she decided to come to my house. When the cops left, they suggested installing a camera to record the exterior. After I returned from walking Sammy, Jane asked if it was okay to stay, saying, "You always make me feel safe." I agreed, but made it clear that there would be no romantic or sexual activities. She smiled and accepted. She was still wearing her gym clothes. I told her to take a shower. She asked if she could wear one of my shirts, and I said sure. What is it with women and men's shirts? She giggled and went to the bathroom. She did something that I think was intentional. She left her cell phone on the table while taking a shower. Perhaps she wanted me to snoop, but I didn't. Why should I? After calling her sister-in-law, we watched a movie. She was lying on the sofa and eventually fell asleep. Watching her sleep with a sad face made me think about the time when we were married. I will never trust her again, but I do care about her. I admired her body. She's still very attractive. I put a blanket over her and went to sleep. I had an erotic dream where Jane came to my room like a naked ghost, ready to fulfill my wildest fantasies. The next day, Sunday, she woke up and said it had been a long time since she had slept that well. She was happy and prepared a nice breakfast while we discussed Birdbrain. Something was nagging at my mind. How did he know where to find her? And how did he know we were divorced? She mentioned she might have mentioned liking a certain chain of gyms, so Birdbrain must have been checking all of them in the area until he found her. It's also obvious we are no longer married since she had to knock on my door, and it's not our previous address. I guess she might be telling the truth. She said she's going to ask for a restraining order against him. I asked if she knows where he lives. Yes, I'm that paranoid. Jane told me it's obvious she doesn't know, but it's very possible he will be guarding the gym where he was waiting for her. So, She's going to pay someone to serve him the legal documents right there. She did that, and the idiot asked the lawyer who handed him the documents where he could find Jane. On November 19th, due to a liver disease, my mom passed away, just one day before my birthday. If I was devastated, my father and brother were in an even worse condition than me. My parents had been married for 47 years, and my brother was my mom's favorite. It's impossible to put into words the sadness, the regret, and all the pain we were feeling at that moment. I texted Mera. She gave me her condolences and told me she would pray for my family. Next, I texted Jane. She didn't answer, but 20 minutes later, an Uber parked in front of the hospital, and Jane got out with her eyes red and hurried to hug me and my family. My father, brother, and his wife went to pray at the hospital's chapel. The doctor gave me a list of all the documentation needed to release my mom's body, and also advised me to bring a tire in which my mom would be cremated. Jane said, "I'm coming with you." We went to my parents' home to gather all the documents. I was very sad, but Jane's company helped me stay focused. I wept a couple of times when I saw my mom's clothes. So many memories. Jane was ready to comfort me. After that, we went to my home to walk Sammy. I had a little chat with Jane. When her father passed away, I was there to support her. She told me it was time for her to back me up, and I agreed. We returned to the hospital to hand in the documents. My father and brother were next to my mom's empty bed. They had already contacted family and friends. I hugged them. My father thanked me for taking care of the process, as he might not have been able to do it. Jane was contacting the funeral staff. My father went to my brother's home. I had to wait and sleep in the hospital, and Jane stayed with me. By 4 in the morning, someone woke me up and told me everything was ready. I received the documents and sent them by text message to the funeral contact. The funeral arranger called me a few minutes later and told me they would take care of everything from there. He gave me the address and room where we could say goodbye to my mom. Jane and I went to grab a bite. After eating, Jane asked me to take her home. I did, and she pleaded with me not to go. My sister-in-law gave me her condolences. My godchildren were at home since it was a holiday. They showed me they were doing homework. I cheered up just by talking to them. Jane came back rushing with a birthday gift for me. This put a smile on my face. It was a big box. She gave me a wallet and some supplements for the gym. Afterwards, we went to my home to feed Sammy, and I took a shower. It's amazing how animals perceive sadness. I cried silently in the shower, and Sammy was scratching the door. Jane took her by the collar to the dining room, but she returned and whined. When I came out of the bathroom, she jumped to lick my face as if to say, "Cheer up." Jane and I arrived at the funeral room. After I identified myself, they told us my mom was already there and that the embalming was scheduled for the next 2 hours. Meanwhile, we bought some flowers and went to the closest supermarket to buy coffee, tea, bread, cookies, etc. for the attendees. Upon our return, they told me it was time to dress my mom, but I froze. 6 years ago, when my father-in-law died, we were in the same situation. Someone had to dress him. My sister-in-law's husband and I did it, and it's a scene I'll never forget. It took us a while to dress him, and then someone applied makeup on his face to make him look more natural. All these thoughts came to my mind. I didn't want them to be my last memories of my mom. Jane knew this, so she stepped up. She told me she would take care of her. Jane and the staff did a great job. Somehow they managed to put a little smile on her face. It looked like she was peacefully sleeping. Jane came to me, hugged me, and cried. I understood. I did exactly the same thing 6 years ago. I don't want to know what she saw. Aunt Angie, along with all my parents' siblings and most of my nieces, nephews, and cousins, were present. My gym buddies, Abraham and Ivan, also made an appearance. Some of them remembered it was my birthday and gave me a bittersweet hug. I texted Mera the address and room number, but she informed me she was very busy and had to see more patients early the next day, so she wouldn't be able to come. I accepted her decision. After all, she hadn't met my mother, and she had made it clear from the start that ours was a casual relationship, so I didn't press the matter. Jane, on the other hand, was offering beverages and snacks, but most of my relatives ignored her. I noticed my cousin Karen and a few others glaring at her, which I thought was unfair. Jane had been nothing but helpful to me and my family, showing love and respect for my mother. She returned to my side with the tray still full and remarked, "I guess they are not hungry yet." I placed the tray on a table next to us and expressed my gratitude to her. "I haven't thanked you enough for all your help. I'll do anything you want, just ask." She didn't look at me as she replied, "No need to thank me. She was like a mother to me too." I put my arm around her shoulder. "Regardless, I'm really grateful you're here," and kissed her on the forehead. Many people stared at us. I smiled at them, but Jane seemed uncomfortable and excused herself to see if anyone wanted a snack, leaving the tray on the table. Fortunately, my relatives were kinder to her for the rest of the service, but Jane kept her distance from me until after my mother was cremated. She gave me a quick hug and said she had to leave. The following days were filled with sadness and chaos. Mara came to see me, apologizing for lying because she admitted that being around sad people affected her. She wanted to have a date since it was my birthday, but instead, she stayed in, feeling guilty about lying for the first time and understanding the potential damage lies can cause in a relationship. I accepted her apologies, but mentioned that I wasn't in the best of spirits at the moment, still mourning my mother. She acknowledged this, but expressed a desire to come clean and perhaps cook dinner with me. I welcomed the idea. In the days that followed, Jane visited my house. I let her in, only to have her start yelling, prompting me to confine Sammy, my dog, as she began barking at Jane. Jane demanded an explanation for the kiss I had given her. I paraphrased, as I couldn't recall the exact words, explaining that it was meant to show my family that we were on good terms, especially since I had noticed their rudeness towards her. Jane fell silent, tears appearing in her eyes as she implored, "Don't do that ever again." Surprised, I listened as she continued, "You don't understand how hard it was for me to get over you, and that kiss undid all the therapy I've had in recent months." I apologized, realizing I hadn't considered her feelings. She went on, "You just keep giving me hope, you damn asshole." It was shocking to hear her curse. She looked at me as if I were a stranger, then began hitting my arms and chest, venting her frustration. Her punches were not damaging, but they were painful. She continued for several minutes while Sammy barked from the next room. Out of breath, Jane stopped, and I hugged her, sensing she needed to release her emotions. She looked into my eyes intensely, and we kissed passionately. When we stopped, she called me an idiot and slapped me, but I was oddly excited by this display of her fiery side. Eventually, we became intimate, and it was intense and passionate. I had missed her attractive figure and beautiful face. We would have continued, but Sammy needed to go outside. At the dog park, we discussed our situation openly. Jane was aware of my relationship with Mara. I stated I wasn't going to end it, given our friends with benefits, non-exclusive arrangement. Jane understood, but expressed her inability to be in such a relationship. I explained that was the only type of relationship I could offer her. She sighed, indicating she might have to sever ties with me permanently. I inquired about her plans, to which she responded uncertainly. I suggested one last encounter, considering it might be our final time together, and she agreed, spending the night with me. In the subsequent weeks, I neither heard from nor contacted Jane. It was unfortunate. Despite the drama, she had been a good friend. I spent Christmas with my father and brother. We were very sad because my mom used to do the cooking, and now the three of us, who humorously called ourselves morons, had to manage it on our own. It turned out to be a really good experience. We were kept busy with all the cooking. I had to give directions to my dad and brother since I was the only one among us who knew how to cook. We managed to prepare a very decent Christmas meal. For the first time, I cooked a turkey. We ate, cried, and toasted to my mom's memory. It was sad, but the three of us had a good time together. Several relatives invited us to spend Christmas with them, but we wanted to be alone. Mara stayed with her parents, and my sister-in-law, my brother's wife, was also out of the city. By the beginning of 2024, someone was knocking on my door. It was Jane. I asked, "Is everything all right?" She pushed me inside and started kissing me. She said, "I accept." She agreed to have a friends with benefits, FWB relationship with me. I reminded her that I was still dating Mara, and she said she knew but still wanted to be with me. I asked what made her change her mind. She told me she tried to date again, but it ended up being the same as last time. She compared those dates to the ones with me. I inquired, "What about your therapy?" She said the goal of the therapy was to make her feel good about herself, and she felt great the last month when we were intimate, including the days following our encounter. We had a quick moment together because I had somewhere to be, and also I had a date with Mara that night. Mara had accepted my relationship with Jane, but she didn't want to meet her. So now, I'm in a FWB relationship with Jane. That's great. I really like her body, expressions, and conversations. I've been balancing my life with two remarkable women, my studies, dancing and keyboard lessons, my fitness training, and I resumed my therapy with the thanatologist to address some unresolved issues I have regarding my mum. I got a new tattoo, an orchid on my chest next to my heart. It was my mum's favorite flower. I haven't given up on the idea of becoming a father, but meanwhile, I'll enjoy my relationships with these two extraordinary women. I'm content with my life for now.